Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei x Yasaka and become demigod? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Hikori Takeo for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Without using it. Kai, on the other hand, is referred to as a type of energy similar to mana and demonic power. How would you feel when you've been given a second chance at life? A chance where you get to live an entirely new life from the very beginning with an unknown end. A chance where you can become the ideal human being, aware of your faults in your previous life. A chance where you get to do what you want to do without anything holding you back. A chance that would let you have no regrets. What is it that you'd feel knowing that you have a chance that many have wished for, desired for? Ecstasy, joy, happiness, or despair, loss, sadness. Most would feel the first three, and a rare few would feel the latter three, and some might even feel something from both sides. But me? At first I felt joy, something that soon turned into despair and then determination. Joy because I get to live again after dying young, not even hitting my 20s, at least I didn't die a virgin. Joy because this time I won't be the disappointment that I was to my parents in my previous life. With the knowledge of my last life, I'll have the upper hand among my younger peers and get ahead of them in everything bar one or two subjects. This time I will become my parents' pride and joy. That very same joy turned into despair when I realized that I was not reincarnated in a normal world. It was a world that I was extremely familiar with. A world that I laughed at and roasted from behind the screen, and now, it is that very same world that will turn into the source of my stress. High school DxD. The world where defies logic and physics in the ass without lube. Now, many would argue with me about this, since the theme of this very world is about the power that holds, for Issei only. They would say that I should be happy because I get to experience paradise outside of heaven. To those that believe in this, you damned hormonal imbeciles. Just because I've been reincarnated to this world doesn't mean everything is going to be rainbows and sunshine. This is my new reality, and as someone who's quite realistic and logical, I know that life tends to royally screw you up when you least expect it. So no, I'm not pleased to know what my new reality is about and their marvelous powers. Many could argue that I can just go on my merry way with my life away from the main cast and their supernatural shenanigans. Trust me, I'd do that in a heartbeat if I could, the keyword being if. How can I stay away from the main cast when the main protagonist is my older brother by 23 months? At least the name that my new parents chose is one of the many that I actually liked. Issei. It means 16 days old moon. This name is the only consolation that I've had from birth, no matter how insignificant or weird it sounds. Now, knowing who my older brother really is and the role that he'll play in this universe, DxD is no longer an anime or fiction to me, but reality. I'll have no choice but get dragged into his mess of a life. And even if I don't get involved directly, Rizavum will eventually reveal the truth about Issei to me and our parents by kidnapping us to the underworld. With Issei being the classical shounen protagonist, even if the series doesn't fall in the shounen category, it made sense for his parents to accept the fact that Issei was no longer their flesh and blood. But here. Where's the guarantee that our parents would be readily accepting of the fact that their son died, became a devil, and died again, foolishly taking Samuel's poison arrow instead of dodging it, only to return back to life because of two of the strongest beings actually taking enough of an interest in him to give his soul a new body. This timeline that I'm a part of isn't an anime, manga or LN. It's reality. That stuff just can't happen. Moreover, how can I be so sure that this timeline will follow canon? How can I be sure that tragedy won't strike me early in life or even around the time period that canon starts at? How can I be sure that Issei will actually be reincarnated by Ria's Gremory? But with me here, what if it is me who is the protagonist? What if I am the boosted gear holder? There are so many what if scenarios that I can think of that it has become hard for me to breathe. The Issei fanfiction stories that I've read in FFN and AO3 made me paranoid to the point I'll end up being an insomniac. Life isn't fair, no one is born equal. Reality is cruel, and sooner or later it will kick me in the nuts. So all I can do is prepare. So with determination, willpower and grit, I'll prepare for the worst. I'll prepare myself Saitama style and hope that everything goes smoothly until I'm ready to face the supernatural head on. Hopefully Saitama's power logic would be applicable to me. Once I gathered myself, I immediately drew up a mental plan of action. I want to be prepared as much as I can just in case I get myself involved in the supernatural side of this world. However, before I get down to the power building, I need to write down everything I remember about canon into notebooks and possibly use codes for everyone's names too. I don't have photographic or eidetic memory, so over the years until the start of canon, I am most likely to get carried away and forget things, so having something to look at to remember things will definitely help in the future. For that, I'll need to learn Japanese first and watch English TV shows and express an interest to learn it. But that out of the way, I decided to learn kendo and karate to cover the non-magic portion of combat. For the magic portion of combat, I decided to meditate and search deep inside me if I have any sacred gear. I did have one, but I didn't know what it was as I was only a bit above a year old when I learnt of it, so I doubt I'll be able to pull it out until I'm 7 years old at least. Depending on the type of sacred gear I have, I'll have to tweak my plans later on. As for how I learned that I have a sacred gear, well, I'll get on to that matter later. Since I couldn't use my sacred gear at that age, I decided to make do with the next best thing. Kai manipulation or senjutsu as it was introduced in this world. Kuroka had mentioned that the most basic method of learning senjutsu is through meditation and quietly releasing my own kai to try and sense the natural kai of my surrounding. So all I did is lie down on a comfortable place and pretend to sleep and focus on following Kuroka's instruction down to the letter. Sounds simple enough, but in reality it isn't so simple. Because of my human physiology I had a hard time tapping into my kai reserves. Once I learned how to tap into my reserves when I was 2 years old after trying for a year, I tried to release my kai to the surroundings as slowly as I could. The first several times I passed out after releasing my kai to the surroundings, but once I got the hang of it, I repeated the process many times until it became an instinctual thing to do. Then I tried to sense my surroundings and worked on expanding my senses to detect the kai of others. Over the years of practice, I became a walking radar of sorts to the point I could count and tell how many people were inhabiting Kuo Town, since my range covered almost the entirety of Kuo Town. At first it brought me headaches, but soon enough I got used to it. But the non-magic portion of combat of my survival plan 101 covered, I concluded that I needed every bit of information that I could get my hands on. So I decided to keep on reading books on mythology and history to have basic knowledge and understanding of all the factions out there, no matter how unlikely it is for the information to be true. I blame Ishibumi for the mess that the supernatural world eventually becomes. Then there's the matter of which faction I'd ally myself to. There are many factions to choose from. The biblical faction consists of 3 sub-factions, the Shinto faction, the Olympians, the Norse pantheon, the Hindu faction, etc. Though considering what happens in the latter quartile of the series, I wouldn't have much of a choice in choosing a faction, which is if I become involved with the supernatural. But, if I did have the option to choose, then I'd aim for the underworld as in becoming a devil under someone's servitude or the Shinto Yokai faction, if not, then Grigori. Or I could remain independent as a freelancer or mercenary for hire with my back open for attacks. It's not like I favor the devils or anything, it's just that becoming one would make it easier to become stronger with the power of imagination and all that shit. But if I were to remain independent then all I'd have is my CQC skills and kai manipulation and no one to be protected by. There are so many things to consider that I wouldn't be surprised if I've accidentally shortened my lifespan from stress, dying like King Gilgamesh did in Nassaverse by overworking. If that doesn't happen, then all of my hair will turn grey early in my life, or I'd become bald like Saitama. What I wouldn't do to make life easier. I won't talk much about my time with Irina and her family. It wasn't anything noteworthy, if anything, it was annoying with how much Irina wanted to hold me, cuddle with me and poke my chubby baby cheeks, then keep on babbling nonsense in a language that would kill eldritch abominations. Exaggeration much? Yeah. Do I care? No. As much as I like kids, I wasn't exactly in the state of mind and body at that time to look after a kid who was physically older than me. At least it was amusing to watch Issei mistake Irina for a boy. The girl, I'll admit, looked cute, just like any other pouting child would for being mistaken as someone of the wrong gender. It was quite dramatic when the time for the shadows to return to England came. Tears were shed, wailing of children were heard, and snots were mixed. Hugs and kisses, platonic ones, were shared. And a promise to reunite in the future was made too. That's all I'm gonna say about the shadows. Wait for Excalibur arc to begin to learn more. I decided to conduct a little experiment. I'm 9 by the way at the moment. It was mainly to determine whether I had any aptitude for magic or not. If I do end up with an aptitude with magic, then I want to try out a few stuff to see if they work. Now, I don't understand much about DxD's human magic system, all I know is that equations and circles are involved. Therefore, I decided to do it the old-fashioned way, in my opinion. Incantations. Since I don't exactly know how magic or the mana in my body and the surroundings feels like, I decided to try out 2 things at once. First is as mentioned, get a feel of my mana and get familiar with it. Secondly, see if the Kido from the Bleach franchise by Tite Kubo works in this world. It may sound stupid for me to try out things from other franchises, but hear me out. I am damn sure someone had a hand in my reincarnation into this particular world and that someone isn't God since he's dead in this world and the one that I believed in back in my previous life wasn't known to pull this kind of shit. So either they have some big plan set up for me to face by the time canon rolls around or earlier, or they want me to genuinely enjoy this new life of mine which I highly doubt and have thus tampered with this world system to allow me some leeway with the shit I plan on pulling. If it's the former, then my experiment won't work and instead blow up in my face, but if it's the latter then I'll have the time of my life, granted that person has given me access to what I would want from them if they had asked, and that is, the logic that applies in Bleach. Mainly the keto and some other stuff that I'd rather not talk about until I've actually found out about them. Now, as I was saying before. Incantations and mana. Incantations help the inexperienced spellcasters learn how to properly regulate the flow and amount of mana into a spell. Since I don't know the feeling mana gives off, doing an incantation would not only carry out its primary objectives, but help me get a feel of the mana inside me and my surroundings. Therefore I decided to try out one of the weaker and safer spells of Keto. Namely the Bakuto ones. So I started with Bakuto number 9. Horn. Suffice to say, the experiment was a massive failure, proving the former half of my theory about that person deity correct. If not, then it'll be both, and that's not fine, because one of my many dreams didn't come true. And I don't want to die young again. Knowing that I can't do keto made me so sad, disappointed and depressed that Issei became concerned like any older brother should and took me out to eat ice cream in hopes of cheering me up. It worked enough to relieve him, but not enough to make my disappointment disappear. 6 months later, I finally found out what my sacred gear is, and I wasn't disappointed. Blade Blacksmith, otherwise known as the rip-off of Shiru Amiya's Unlimited Blade Works and the holy counterpart of Sword Birth. But soon a problem reared its head after I was done riding the high of potentially becoming the second coming of Shiru Amiya and Sword of Gilgamesh. I was able to create several nondescript holy swords, but the question is, how did I create them seeing as I lack a mana reservoir for the sacred gear to draw upon in order to create the swords? Is Blade Blacksmith using my life force to create the swords like how the boosted gear and Divine Dividing's Juggernaut drive feeds on the life force and sanity of the wielder to sustain itself? If that is the case, then shouldn't I avoid using Blade Blacksmith? Or should I? I mean, I don't want to die young, but that doesn't mean I want to die old either. I want to die when I'm around 50 years old more or less, so I guess I could go ahead and keep on using Blade Blacksmith in short bursts to prevent the consumption of my life force. Or I could use it almost on a daily basis, but at the same time making sure to draw in nature's Kai into myself. But that itself presents another problem. What if I go insane from the malice and evil that is mixed in nature's Kai? Then wouldn't I end up attacking my current family and wreak havoc in my neighborhood until someone decides to put me out of my misery? The way I see it, either option ends up leading to me dying way too soon in my current family. If I was an orphan living in an orphanage then I would have gone ahead with both plans, but since I'm not, either of them are out of consideration. But if I don't start training with Blade Blacksmith now, wouldn't I end up dying either way in a battle in the future? This way I am only delaying the inevitable, right? So I should start working on mastering Blade Blacksmith, right? In the end I decided on training with Blade Blacksmith twice a week in short bursts. It would be a slow and long process, but at least that way I'm making some progress, right? So it's fine. Hopefully. My training with Kai manipulation is coming in good though. I can finally use Tauki, but can't keep it up for longer than 2 minutes, and that's by remaining stationary. Making the slightest of movements would cause my concentration to break and Tauki to vanish, so I'm going to need a lot of work with that. That aside, I've progressed leaps and bounds in karate and kendo. Both of them were rather easy to pick up and master, but my progress with the Edo and Kyudo was slow, as not only did I pick them up after I manifested Blade Blacksmith, but both required more discipline, something that I've always lacked in my previous life and a bit in this one as well. So I've got a long way to go before I master these two. But I do believe that by the time canon rolls around, I would be more than ready to face minor threats like Rainer and Co. But after them, I would need to have Kaneko and Yudo as my sparring partners, the latter for his speed and the former for her strength and durability. To celebrate my 11th birthday, we went on a family trip to Kyoto, 1.5 days before my birthday. We would be there on a 4-day trip, going around all the tourist attractions and then returning home. Normally, I wouldn't have mentioned this, but for the sake of the story's progression, I'll just skip to the main part. I've crossed paths with not only Serapho Leviathan, but Yasaka as well. How? It was on the 3rd day when we were heading towards Kyoto Imperial Palace that I crossed paths with him. I recognized Serapho at first glance, I mean, how could I not? She was wearing that twice damned magical girl outfit, suspiciously not drawing attention to her. But Yasaka. I didn't recognize her at first, not because she was hiding her fox ears and tails, but rather she looked vastly different from what the LN and anime portrayed her as. Yasaka literally stole my breath away with her beauty. She was tall, quite close to 6 feet if I'm not wrong, with a voluptuous body and skin tone close to mine, milky white in similarity, but different. Her hair of liquid gilt cascaded down her straight and poised back, and her eyes shone like the sun. Her facial features were both angelic and ethereal, and she was curled in a smile that looked both gracious and mischievous. She was wearing a scarlet kimono with white and yellow floral patterns and a golden obi. I don't know how my family didn't notice her, but I'm willing to bet it had something to do with Yujutsu. Her beauty in this world made the LN and animes one pale in comparison. Her eyebrows weren't those round things that had signified nobility, instead thin and long, and her eyes were a bit narrowed. Why I was the only one to notice her beauty is a question I didn't know the answer to, but what I did know was that I couldn't detect anything from her, I couldn't sense her aura. I could sense Seraphol's aura just fine, it was suppressed but not completely gone, unlike Yasaka's. It was as if she was just a ghost walking side by side with Seraphol. As for how I am so sure she was Yasaka. Seraphol had blatantly called her by her real name instead of a fake one. But I could be wrong, as they could be a pair of imposters, thus sus and not so trustworthy. But this isn't exactly how I crossed paths with them. No, as I mentioned earlier, I was with my family walking towards the Kyoto Imperial Palace when I felt 2 pairs of eyes on me. I quickly expanded my senses and felt something dark, sinful and non-human ping in the back of my mind. I looked in that direction, only to meet the purple eyes of one Seraphol Leviathan, wearing that damnable magical girl outfit, and the golden ones of Yasaka. She and Yasaka were both just standing close to a tree 10 meters at my 4 o'clock, blatantly staring at me, not even bothering to look away. Seraphol had instead waved at me, and I couldn't help the grimace on my face. The very same grimace that transformed into amazement once my eyes landed on Yasaka. Seraphol had pouted at it while Yasaka winked at me. I would have been in a trance staring breathlessly at Yasaka if Issei hadn't shaken me, asking what I was doing spacing out in the middle of the road. I looked at him once and then looked at the tree, only to see them gone, as if they weren't even there to begin with. I shook my head and instead lied to Issei that I had seen something interesting, which left after seeing him. Not a lie, since Amayu and a leader were shamelessly staring at me, only calling out to each other loudly, somehow going unheard by everyone except me, but otherwise quietly conversed, not even taking their eyes off of me. That was when I knew they had taken an interest in me due to reasons unknown. Almost a year later, one of them acts on their apparent interest in me, which is also the time a misunderstanding of mine gets cleared, side by side with learning their reasons for doing so. 6:36 a.m., 13th December 2004. Guo Central Park. Third person POV. It happened just a couple of minutes after Issei reached the park to do his daily workout after a nice long jog around the town. Og suddenly appeared and covered a part of the park surrounding him on all sides, locking him away from the world outside. Issei tensed, expanding his Kai sense across the perimeter of the fog, and stayed alert for any kind of hostile intent and action. Spreading his legs slightly past his shoulders, Issei lowered his center of mass and held his left arm beside his face and right arm at his hip, intent on creating 2 wakizashi using Blade Blacksmith to defend himself. For several long seconds nothing happened until he sensed a hostile intent up and behind him. Quickly turning around, he raised his right arm, instantly creating a wakizashi held in a reverse grip to block another one from his attacker, grunting as his 11-year-old body buckled under the strength of the attack from a pink-haired female. Ninja. Issei muttered in confusion, breaking the lock and jumping back to create some distance between him and the ninja. Why are you attacking me? The ninja remained silent, preferring to observe Issei. Not want to talk, huh, Ms. Ninja? Using the standstill between the two of them, Issei took a moment to observe Ms. Ninja. After taking a proper look at her, he grimaced as he noticed the 2 fox ears atop her head and the 5 fox tails swishing lazily behind her. Probably on par with a high-class devil or close to one. Better not underestimate her. Not willing to die so soon, Issei took a deep breath and exhaled, then covered himself in the aura of his Tauki, immediately ducking as Ms. Ninja sailed over his head feet first in an attempt of a dropkick to the face. Spinning on his feet, Issei switched the wakizashi in his right hand with a katana and slashed at her, following up with a stab from the wakizashi in his left hand as she leaned backwards to dodge the katana. But Issei didn't stop with a stab. No, with a loud command of shoot. The blade of the wakizashi burst forward, increasing in length to punch through her skull, only to miss as Ms. Ninja turned out to be more agile and faster than Issei expected, landing a roundhouse kick on his face that would have fractured his jaw if he wasn't using Tauki. Issei shot backwards and crashed through the fountain, landing hard behind it with a pained grunt, the back of his tracksuit in tears. Much to Ms. Ninja's pleasant surprise, Issei immediately shot up from the ground, locked his sight on her and burst towards her over the shattered fountain, killing intent radiating off of him. She lazily blocked the first strike from the katana in his right hand, hiding her surprise at the strength behind the swing, and grabbed his left hand, stopping the stab towards her liver. While his attacks were painfully easy to read and react to for someone of her caliber, the places where he aimed were certainly capable of killing or fatally injuring her. Done with her observation, Ms. Ninja reared her leg and kicked him on the left hip, pleased at the lack of the sound of bone breaking. She flicked her wrist, breaking the lock of his katana and her wakizashi before Spartan kicked him back past the shattered fountain. She hummed, not moving from her position as she heard him wheeze and cough on the ground before getting back on his feet with a groan. Standing up, Issei switched the wakizashi in his left hand with 3 kunes and threw them at her. As he expected, she expertly dodged them, but then blurred right in front of him, her fist mere inches from connecting with his face. He jerked his head to the side at the last moment, her first grazing his cheek, cutting a thin line under his right eye as he rolled away before throwing 3 more kunes at her. While Issei was shocked that her fist was able to cut a line on his cheek, even though he had 2 layers of protection over him, a second skin made of his kai and taki, he didn't show it on his face, prioritizing his life over the discovery. He would later ponder on how she was able to pull it off without using her own taki. He would be damned if the Gobi no Kitsune didn't know how to use taki, assuming he survives from this encounter at her mercy. His ninja then turned invisible right before him, making him panic before she landed another arc kick on his face, sending him tumbling away. She pressed on the attack for a minute straight, striking from random directions as Issei desperately tried to guard himself before he roared, throwing his hands to the side, and a wave of raw, destructive kai burst out of him in a sphere, creating a crater beneath him, and this time throwing her backwards at a tree that she hit hard against in her surprise. Of course, she recovered quickly and stealthily walked towards the crater to check up on him, now visible to his eyes. From his position in the center of the small crater, Issei glared up at her as he panted on all fours before standing up on wobbly legs and manifesting his taki with a grunt of pain, which flickered constantly, expressing his tiredness. Clearly impressed, Ms. Ninja couldn't help but raise her eyebrows at him. Issei weakly smirked and rasped out, "I ain't done, you damn vixen." He weakly raised his right hand, pointed at her, 10 katanas manifesting by his sides before they shot forward at her faster than his thrown kunes did. Ms. Ninja once again displayed her agility and speed as she dodged all the swords before hurriedly raising her wakizashi to block the 2-handed swing from Issei. Unimpressed, she raised an eyebrow at him. Issei only grinned and said only one word. "Burn." Then there was fire everywhere. "Burn." I watched in glee as Ms. Ninja's eyes widened in shock just before the katana in my hands doused her in flames. Staggering back, I dropped to one knee, plunging my katana in the ground and leant against it, harshly panting in overexertion. Sheesh, fighting a full-grown adult in an 11-year-old child's body is hard. If I hadn't been training with kai manipulation since a bit over a year old, I doubt I could have held out this long. I didn't dare take my eyes off of the tower of flames, silently creating a wakizashi with a specific ability in it and stabbed it behind me on the ground as a contingency, just in case she managed to survive that, which unfortunately she might, considering how she was able to cut a thin line on my cheek just by grazing her fist, completely ignoring the double-layered protection I had on me. Needless to say, I am heavily disappointed and unsurprised when she walks out of the flames without any kind of burns whatsoever. Even her clothes are alright. Damn lady, where did you get your clothes? Wait, not the time, you stupid brain. She leisurely walked to my position and quietly held her wakizashi against my surrender. I smirked at her and asked, "Are you sure about Ms. Ninja?" I ignored how she pressed her wakizashi against my, drawing blood, and mentally triggered my contingency. Much to my dissatisfaction, she jumped backwards just in time to avoid getting stabbed by the several low-quality swords that burst from the ground surrounding me in a protective formation. Like hell am I surrendering, you damn vixen. Am I die fighting? Having regained enough of my strength, I stood up holding a new katana before me in a guarding stance and dismissed the swords in the ground. Ms. Ninja held her wakizashi before her and stared me in the eyes. Both of us continued our stare down until. "That is enough." The soft and gentle motherly voice butt in. Ms. Ninja instantly relaxed and went down on a knee towards the source of the voice, and I dumbly stared at the approaching woman in red kimono who could pass off as my birth mother instead of Miki Haidu. She had the same white hair as me, tied in a bun, her skin is milky white like mine, and even the shape of her face is similar to mine. The only thing that was different was her eyes, which were blood red instead of gold. Amaterasu-sama. The name drop from Ms. Ninja shocked me so much that I fell flat on my ass, mouth open wide, staring unblinkingly at the goddess of the sun and the universe. "I believe you have found out what you needed to know, yay. I will hear your thoughts once I have healed my son." Please take your time, Amaterasu-sama. I shall wait for as long as you need me to. But the not Amaterasu walked over and crouched next to me, the edges of her kimono brushing against the ground, and suddenly I had the urge to wash off the dirt on her kimono with my own hands until it sparkled. This must be what it's like to be in the presence of a god-goddess. The ability to influence such subservience is frightening. Our eyes met and I grunted, clutching my head in pain, eyes closed and teeth gritted as images of Amaterasu lovingly cradling me in her arms, playing with me, helping me walk, teaching me, taking me to several places, and then dying in her arms flashed through my mind. The pain became too much for me to bear and I passed out, but not without hearing the worried and frightened calls of Amaterasu and Ye. 7:15 a.m., 13th June 2004. Kuo Central Park, Kuo. Issei Pav. Consciousness slowly returned to me and I opened my eyes, immediately closing them with a grunt as sunlight hit my eyes. Ugh, what happened? I muttered absent-mindedly as I rubbed my eyes with a scowl. I sat up with a groan and took in my surroundings, and slowly everything came back to me. I was assaulted by a dark bull Jonin Wanab after I came to the park for my daily workout. We fought for a bit and then Amaterasu showed up to stop our fight, if it even can be called that, and then our eyes met and… What was that? It was like I was seeing someone else's memories, someone who was Amaterasu's son. And said son happened to be me. What the hell? How is that possible? It doesn't make sense. Why did I see someone else's memory? If I am her dead son, then what does that mean? Am I not Issei Haidu, the reincarnation of Leon? Oh great. Now I'm having an identity crisis. Just what I needed after fighting a dark bull Jonin Wanab. Wait, speaking of which, where is that Wanab and Amaterasu? Finally registering the two presences behind me, I turned around and saw them, both looking guilty and extremely worried. Not bothering to speak up, I stared at them in silence, uncaring, making them uncomfortable with my gaze. This went on for several minutes until the Wanab caved in and spoke up, allow me to introduce ourselves. I am Ye, the personal attendant of Her Holiness, Amaterasu Amakami-sama. As you can guess, this is Amaterasu Amakami-sama, the Shinto goddess of sun and universe. I narrowed my eyes and stayed silent, neither acknowledging nor dismissing what she said. I know you have questions to ask, but before that Amaterasu bowed with Ye following her lead. I sincerely apologize for what happened this early in the morning. It was I who allowed this skirmish to take place, which led to you getting injured. And while I do not know what happened to you after our eyes met, I do know that I am the cause of it, therefore, please forgive me. I stared at them for a few seconds before sighing and said, well, I won't say I have forgiven you, I will nonetheless accept your apology for now, so please stop bowing. It's making me uncomfortable. Thank you. The two of them sat up and I continued, as you have mentioned before, I do have many questions to ask. However, what I don't have now is the time, nor the best mentality to ask them without being rude. Therefore, I suggest that we meet here again tomorrow at 4 p.m. sharp to continue our Q&A session. Agreed. Their shoulders sagged in relief, and Amaterasu nodded. I understand. We will meet you here tomorrow at 4 p.m. HN. 8:50 p.m., 13th June 2004. Issei's room, Haidu residence, Kuo. Issei Pav. I stared up at the ceiling of my room as I thought back to what happened this morning. I'm not mostly concerned about the fact that my assailant happens to be a lookalike of a Honkaverse character, nor the fact that it was Amaterasu who allowed the skirmish to take place. No, what I'm more concerned about is the identity crisis I had after regaining consciousness. In fact, I can feel it coming back again. Who am I, or rather, who is Issei Haidu? The reincarnation of Leon? Or the reincarnation of Amaterasu's unknown son? All these years until the moment my Issei's eyes met those of Amaterasu's, it was obvious that Issei Haidu is the reincarnation of Leon. But now? I'm not too sure. Nor do I want to know. Having an identity crisis is bad enough as it is, but having to lose myself and become someone else is an entirely different matter. While it is possible for a vessel to host two souls seeing as the boosted gear and divine diving exist, I don't think it is possible for the vessel to have memories of both souls, unless both souls allow the vessel to have access to their memories. But that maneuver is extremely risky on its own, as the memories of two souls rushing into the brain of the vessel could overload the brain and end up killing it. Could it be that the vessel that is Issei Haidu has the souls of both Leon and Amaterasu's unknown son? If that is the case, then why has Leon been the one always in control of the vessel? Shouldn't Amaterasu's son be the one in control considering his nature as a god? Oh man, I'm losing my mind, aren't I? Is this what it's like to go through an identity crisis? My mind's getting all messed up from this shit. I can't even bring myself to sleep now due to being scared out of my mind at the possibility of waking up the next day as an entirely different person. Scared of losing all the progress I made over the last decade. More than that, I'm scared of how my current family would react to someone who isn't the one they raised. Someone who doesn't even know them. I'm scared and I am not sure what to do now. What I can do is be patient and get all my answers from Amaterasu and Yae tomorrow. 3:50 p.m., 14th June 2004. Kuo Central Park, Kuo. Issei Pav. They are already here, I noted, having detected the Kai of Yae and Amaterasu upon entering the vicinity of the park. I leisurely strode towards the fountain and passed through what felt like a barrier to see both Yae and Amaterasu sitting on the bench they were occupying yesterday. Walking up to them, I dipped my head and greeted, "Good afternoon Amaterasu-sama, Yae-san." "Good afternoon to you too Issei Haidu." Amaterasu greeted back with a dip of her head as I sat down on the bench next to theirs. "I take it you feel better now?" "Yes, and I would like to get straight to the point and ask my questions if you wouldn't mind." "Please go ahead." Not willing to experience an identity crisis again anytime soon, I asked, "Are we related to each other? You and me?" Amaterasu's eyes widened slightly before she took a few seconds to answer. "Possibly." "What makes you ask that?" "Huh? She's asking that after calling me son yesterday." "Well, no matter. I'll get straight to the point without giving away too much information. I'm not good at twisting words, hiding things and playing coy after all." "You called me your son yesterday," I pointed out. "Also, it's related to why I passed out abruptly yesterday." I looked Amaterasu in the eyes, a daring task considering our positions, and continued. "I saw memories of a me who was your child." There was silence for a few seconds as Amaterasu stared at me in shock before asking, "Did it happen before yesterday?" "No. Yesterday was the first time it happened." "I see. So? You have yet to give a proper answer to my question." "It seems you are the reincarnation of my late son, Megumureta." As I thought, I grimaced, turning my face away from Amaterasu's direction. Shit. If I start remembering the memories of Megumureta, I might just forget who I am. I can't let that happen. "Issei Haidu? Are you alright? You have been silent for a while." Amaterasu's voice snapped me back from my thoughts, and I turned to face her. "Yes, I am fine, just wondering who this Megumureta is as I don't remember reading about him in books." Amaterasu frowned. "How much do you remember about him?" I shrugged. "Not a lot. It was mostly flashes of memories that stood out more than the rest." "Which were?" "They were of me after being born, then you playing with me, helping me learn how to walk, teaching me something, taking me to visit several places and my last moments with you before I died." Silence fell upon the three of us as Amaterasu stared at me with wide eyes and Yae facing away with her eyes closed. As Amaterasu and I kept staring at each other, I saw various emotions flicker in her eyes. Sorrow, hurt, loss, confusion, sadness, hope, hesitation and resignation. "Were those all that you remember?" "At the moment. Yes. I might remember more over time, but that is something I am honestly not looking forward to." "What? Why?" Yae exclaimed angrily, actually looking hurt. Could it be that she knew Megumureta on a personal level and has attachments to him? "Well, I know she can send me where I am faster than I can register," I still answered her fearlessly. "Put yourself in my shoes. Imagine living for centuries as Yae, and then suddenly, a new set of memories trickle in of a you who is different with a life of her own. Both of your memories will merge, creating a third identity, which might end up being vastly different than yourselves as a blank slate. Everyone you've known in those centuries that you lived as Yae will become strangers to you over a couple of days." "Sounds great, doesn't it?" That Yae sat down with her breath knocked out, eyes wide in shock. How can you be so sure I wouldn't retain both sets of my memories?" "The brain, regardless of whether it is of a supernatural being or not, is incapable of containing memories of two whole lifetimes. It will either break, reducing you to a vegetable, or improvise by creating a third identity with a blank slate, removing the memories to start from the beginning. And this is the best case scenario. In the worst case scenario, you will die. How do you even know and understand such a thing?" "That's something I won't be answering anytime soon. Not without enough trust earned between us all." "I believe there isn't much to worry about." Amaterasu butted in, making us look at her questioningly. "Megumureta was only 6 years old when he died." She looked down at her clasped hands over her lap. "He was a sickly child, born weak and fragile, always needing to stay in his bed, hardly getting the chance to go outside and play. So I always stayed by his side, worked whenever he was asleep, tended to him whenever he was awake, taught him how to walk, taught him how to read and write, then once every few months I would take him outside to show him what the world was like." She sighed and finished. "Then one day, suddenly his condition worsened, and before we could find some kind of treatment for him, he died in my arms." She straightened up and looked at me. "So you see, aside from lingering emotional attachments to a certain few individuals, there won't be any major changes to who you are, should you remember those memories." She says that there won't be much of a change in me from those memories, but I don't believe that is true. Or, I wouldn't have if I wasn't also the reincarnation of Leon. Those 6 years of memories will be no different than speed reading a book to me, who is at the moment 29 years old spiritually. Then I guess I have no qualms about remembering those memories. Amaterasu released a sigh of relief and smiled at me in gratitude. I have 2 more questions to ask, and depending on your answers, the questions might increase. Very well. Why did you allow the skirmish between me and Yae-san? Yae raised her hand and answered, that was my idea actually. Yasaka ni-sama had mentioned about you being special to Amaterasu-sama and suggested we recruit you into our faction before that crazy Mao Leviathan could do so. I suppressed a shudder of horror hearing that Sirafo wanted to recruit me. I wanted to see what was so special about you, and here we are, a day after I tested the waters. Aren't you ashamed of assaulting a child? Well, you certainly don't behave and act like one. From what I have seen, you might as well be an underground adult. I will have you know that I became 11 this March. If you say so. Yae answered, shrugging her shoulders. Deciding to ignore the damn fox, I faced Amaterasu Watts with a nostalgia in her eyes. And asked, what's so special about me that required me to be assaulted early in the morning for recruiting? Once again, I apologize for her allowing you to go through with her idea. Amaterasu answered with a sigh and continued, as for what's so special about you, I believe you already know the answer to that. No, I don't. I immediately replied with crossed arms. And even if I did know, I would still want to hear it from you, I'm no narcissist. So you seek acknowledgement? I raised an eyebrow at her question. Very well. You, an 11-year-old child, have shown a degree of combat skills not seen among trainees your age. Your skill with Senjutsu is quite impressive seeing as you are capable of not only Taki, but maintaining a second skin made of your own Kai at all times, which is something not seen among most Senjutsu practitioners. And I take it all of this is self-taught. Yes. Yae then spoke up. Not to mention, your Kai is not only larger than someone your age, it's heavier and denser than what a human Senjutsu practitioner should have. Then again, that might be because you are the reincarnation of the late Megumureta. That, and your mana reservoir is larger than an average rookie magician. That gave me a pause. I dubiously stared at Amaterasu and asked, I have a mana reservoir? Amaterasu and Yae blinked twice. Did you think you didn't have one all this time? I shook my head in a no. What did you think your sacred gear created those swords from then? I raised a finger and answered Yae's question. All this time I was aware that I was using my life force to create those swords due to my lack of mana reservoir. I was worried about being drained of my life force, which is why I always limited my usage of blade blacksmith. Instead of laughing at me, Yae smiled in amusement and chuckled. Don't worry Issei Haidu, you were never at the risk of having your life force drained by blade blacksmith. Why else do you think you were able to create 45 swords, albeit the sudden 23 of them were comparatively weak and low in quality, but nonetheless, what you did was nothing short of impressive for an 11-year-old. Wait, I created 45, but my limit was 30. And she kept count of all of them, guess it comes from experience, but the question still remains, why could I create 45 swords throughout the battle instead of the usual 30? Did Blade Blacksmith evolve like a Pokemon? Wait, that's not the point. Deciding to ignore my sudden level up, I proceeded to ask the next question. You said earlier that you wished to recruit me into your faction. What will I get out of it if I accept? Wait, you're not accepting. I duly stared at Yael and answered, Yae-san, I may be a child, but I'm not naive. Me being the reincarnation of Megumureta is not a reason for me to readily become affiliated with your faction. Moreover, I have my own goals to achieve. If you can't provide me with the resources to achieve them, then I might just find myself a different provider. Before Yae could even reply, Amaterasu raised a hand to stop her and said, he is right Yae. Even if he is the reincarnation of my son, he is not him. He has every right to decide for himself. Sorry. Yae apologized with a dip of her head. It's fine. Before I explain what I want you to provide me with, it will be better for me to explain my goals first, no? I suppose so. I created one of my high-quality swords and held it before them. What do you see in my hands? They strangely looked at me before answering, a sword. I shook my head. Wrong. I palmed the sword and corrected them. It's just scrap metal shaped like a sword and tainted with holy energy. It's not a sword. I dematerialized it ignoring their incredulous look and continued, one of my primary goals is to forge sword, one that is as strong as the likes of Durandal, Excalibur, Graham and Kusanagi no Tsurugi, if not stronger, as that sword is meant to be the very manifestation of my ideals. My secondary goal is to become one of the strongest humans in existence, capable of going toe-to-toe with gods and dragons. I closed my fist and looked Amaterasu in the eye resolutely. I know these goals are lofty and almost impossible to accomplish, but I must aim that high if I want to accomplish something. Their eyes widened in surprise before Amaterasu smiled nostalgically and said, "That's admirable." For my sake I decided to pretend not to hear the "just like him" that Amaterasu whispered. "Also, should I become an operative of your faction, I want to be the best that there is." "Those are lofty goals, but I wouldn't say they are impossible to achieve," Ye commented. "I mean, Vasco Strada exists. That man is an absolute monster. Even some gods are wary of him." Ye added with a shudder. "He's a human, by the way." "That's nice to know." I nodded, pretending not to know the monster that is Vasco Strada. "Now for what I require from you." I spent the next 10 minutes explaining the things I need from them and reason why I need said things. Once done, I waited for their response as Amaterasu thought for a few seconds before answering. "Very well. All of them are well within my power to provide you with." "Then we have a deal." I smiled in relief, glad that I'll be in good hands. With me being the reincarnation of Amaterasu's late son, I am bound to draw some degree of attention towards myself, both positive and negative. But I can worry about them later. Now, I believe you have your own questions to ask me. "Yes." Amaterasu nodded. "How did you learn the basics of Senjutsu? You had confirmed earlier that you are self-taught, but Senjutsu is an extremely risky art to learn. Yet, what you displayed with just the basics make it seem the opposite." I tapped my chin with a thoughtful expression and answered, "I don't suppose you would believe me if I told you I was born with knowledge of how to use it." Their dull stares were all the confirmation I needed. I sighed and continued, "Sorry, that's not something I can say now. Maybe in the future once we have built enough trust between each other, I will. Until then, I can't tell you anything." "That's fine. We all have our secrets that we would like to keep to ourselves." Amaterasu answered in an understanding manner. "Next question." Her eyes gained a hopeful look in them as she asked, "Do you know that your soul isn't entirely human?" Now that is something I can answer. I was worried I would have to bring it up myself later on, but looks like I won't have to wait. Yes. I noticed something strange and worrying a few years back when I looked at my soul. If I am right, my soul is about 80% human and 20% non-human. I have a feeling what the non-human part is, but I'd rather hear it from you seeing as you seem to know what it is better. That 20% of your soul is most probably what my late son Megumureta consists of. I took a deep breath and braced myself as Amaterasu smiled at me. "Which makes you a demigod. A weak one, but a demigod nonetheless." "Oh." I released a breath and slumped back against the bench. "Oh my." I started chuckling and laughed softly while covering my face. After a few moments I faced Amaterasu and asked, "Does my status as a demigod mean anything to me?" "Not unless you introduce yourself as my son Megumureta, no. Those who will notice the divinity in you wouldn't give you more than a passing glance to you, as they would think you are a distant descendant of one." I hummed and looked at the sky. "This means that you are my spiritual mother, I guess." "I suppose." "Mind if I ask something?" I nodded at Ye and she asked, "You said earlier that you can see your own soul, does that extending to other people's souls as well?" I interrupted with a raised eyebrow, getting a nod from her. "Yes. Yes, I can. I can see both of your souls. That's how I realized what my soul's non-human part was. I just need confirmation." I answered honestly with a shrug. I used to think that being capable of looking at souls is ordinary for Senjutsu practitioners, but the look on their faces says otherwise. But, I guess I can find out about it sometime in the future. No need to hurry. After all, I still have 4 years until canon starts, assuming everything until canon stays the same, which I have a feeling it won't. Oh well, no use fretting about it now. Well then. I stood up and met Amaterasu's eyes. I would ask what kind of relation the two of us should have now that it has been established we are pseudo-mother and son, but I suppose now is not the right time. Amaterasu shook her head. "I'm afraid it's not. Not until you recover more of Megumureta's memory at least." She tilted her head and said, "Though I am curious about something. You seem oddly calm for someone who has just learnt that they are a demigod. Normally someone your age would be jumping around in excitement and trying out their new set of powers." I laughed and said, "It's my soul that is demigod in nature. My body is purely human, at least for now. To me, the divinity in me is no different than a cheater boost that will help me reach heights ordinary humans would be unable to." Then I added, "And as much as I would like to try out using my divinity, I would rather do it under your supervision, which is if you are willing to do so. Who knows? Maybe it will help me recall my memories as Megumureta earlier. Let's see if she takes the bait." With a pleased smile and hopeful look in her eyes, Amaterasu answered, "It would be my pleasure." She took the bait. "Let's part ways for now." "Very well." Amaterasu and Ye both stood up. I just waved and said, "See you soon." "That, we shall." 5:55 p.m., 14th June 2004. Kuo Central Park, Kuo. Third person Pav. Once Amaterasu and Ye sensed Issei reaching his home, Ye said, "He knows more than he lets on, doesn't he?" "But he does." Amaterasu absent-mindedly answered, getting a worried look from Ye. "Are you alright, Amaterasu-sama?" The goddess glanced at Ye and hummed. "It's strange that a child from a family of ordinary humans knows so much about the supernatural world. Don't you agree, Ye?" "Yes. He's making himself look like a very suspicious person, and I have a feeling that he is aware of it himself. How can an 11-year-old know so much about how souls and memories function with a vessel? That's classified information." Unknown to them both, said classified information was something that Issei made up to convince himself of his circumstances. In fact, when he was describing the consequences of what would happen to a vessel should it be forced to contain two sets of memories, his heart was ready to burst out of its cage. So it was a huge relief to him when he had been shocked at his make-believe knowledge and didn't call him out on his bullshit. 1. That, and how can he even look at souls? Only gods are capable of such. Even if he's a demigod, he shouldn't be capable of doing it. Amaterasu sighed. "Calm down, Ye. As he said, he is willing to tell us everything once we've gained enough trust between each other. For now, all we can do is wait for him to open up." "You're right. All we can do is to be patient. But that aside, what of his demands? He will be given only the best." Issei understood why Amaterasu was willing to go to such lengths for Issei Haidu. When Megumurata had passed away, Amaterasu had grieved for years until she got tired of it. His death had left her empty and disheartened, which in turn pained her brothers and her followers. And now, almost 3 centuries later, she found him merged with the soul of a human who knows far too much for his own good and is hoping that he would see her as his mother. "What we are doing is extremely risky, but if it ends up making Amaterasu-sama happy, then I'm willing to give that boy a chance. For your own good, don't disappoint me, Issei Haidu." Both combatants took their respective stances, Issei's resembling that of Virgil's, while Mei simply stood with a hand on the hilt of her bakken. After a short stare down, the two of them clashed swords when Ye abruptly sneezed. Even though steel met wood, the sounds produced by the clash were akin to those of real swords. The combatant swords kept on clashing with each other as Issei blocked and parried every single strike from Mei, impressing the older woman. Mei increased her attack rate and landed several hits on Issei, most of which connected with the blades covering Issei's body. Undeterred, Mei pressed on her attack, pushing Issei several steps back before his sword gleamed and he sped up, once again matching her blow for blow. All the while Ye, Yasaka and Fuuka watched from the sidelines. Issei took his left hand off of the blunt katana and manifested a wakizashi before blocking Mei's swings with a shorter sword. His katana gleamed and lightning coated it. Seeing the lighting crackling on Issei's katana, Mei disengaged and dashed back just in time for him to fire an arc of lightning at her. She ducked under the arc of lightning and jumped to the side, dodging a wave of fire. Coating her bakken in her own crimson lightning, she fired an arc of lighting in Issei's direction and him doing the same. His lighting resisted Mei's only for a second before Mei's one consumed him and continued heading towards him. Unsurprised, Issei jumped backwards, dodging the arc of lighting and immediately blocking a strike from Mei with his katana. With a grunt he broke the lock between their blades and went for a stab with his wakizashi. Mei turned 360 degrees on her heels and swung her bakken at Issei's knees. Her bakken shattered the wall of blades that shot up from the ground and missed its target as Issei had dashed back with 3 in his hands that he threw at her. Mei deflected all 3 and dodged the swords that flew at her like a bullet. She then ended the match by abruptly crossing the distance between them faster than before and pressed the tip of her bakken against Issei's dot. "This should be enough for today." While he was shocked and surprised at the speed Mei displayed, he nonetheless regained his composure and dismissed his swords. "Okay." With a smile Mei sheathed her bakken. "You are really good with the sword, Issei-kun. I'm sure you'll master what I'll teach you in no time." Being blasted with Mei's smile at such a close range, Issei was unable to tank it and blushed bright red and quickly stammered out, "Okay, thank you, see you." And then he was gone, leaving a cloud of dust in his trails, leaving Mei all confused at his actions. Fuwa sighed and dropped her head, way too familiar with the scene. Yasaka chuckled amusedly and Ye gawked once again. Mei raised a hand in the direction Issei went before dropping it and faced the rest. Did I do something? Did my actions upset him? Why did he go so red in the face? Ladies and gentlemen, meet Meraiden, the reverse harem protagonist. Fuwa deadpanned in her mind before assuaging Mei's concerns. "No, you didn't do anything. He wasn't upset that you defeated him. He went red in the face because you were too close to him." Mei blinked twice before relaxing. "Oh. I thought he didn't like me. If anything, it's the opposite. Don't worry, Mei-san, you are a person who is hard to dislike. Children love and adore you, so you don't have to worry about Issei-kun disliking you," Yasaka assured Mei. "I see. Mei smiled in relief, and Yasaka questioned her quality for the nth time. The might of a archer is formidable. Despite her horrifying experience with the last archer in the previous era, Fu Hua had no doubts Mei was the strongest archer in every single universe out there, and no one can convince her otherwise. The archer of accidental seduction should be her title. So he can blush. That means he can be embarrassed. Ye cheered after recovering from her shock. The three women gave her their attention. What do you mean by that? Mei asked. Well, Issei-kun seems like the type who is cool, calm and collected, doesn't he? The type who has good control over their emotions. The women nodded. That and he doesn't seem to be surprised easily by most things, for example, the day I assaulted him. Assault you assaulted him, Mei shrieked, grabbing Ye by her kimono's collar and started shaking her. Why did you do that to a child? Mei, let her finish, then do whatever you want. Fu Hua stopped Mei and looked at Ye. And you? Ye gulped and Yasaka scooted away from her sister. You better have a good reason to assault him. Mei nodded, her bakken replaced by her katana. Alright, as I was saying, the day I assaulted him, I was wearing my combat uniform which, in case you don't know, hides very little of my body. Everyone looked at me like she was the dirtiest thing they had seen in their entire life. Ye, unbothered by the looks continued, he didn't so much blush, stammer or get embarrassed that I was dressed in something risque, if anything he had a deadpan expression on his face, as if saying, really? The only things he paid attention to were the 5 out of my 8 tails that I kept exposed and the ears. Ye scratched her chin and hummed. The only times I've seen him getting surprised and shocked were when Amaterasu-sama showed up and yesterday when I brought him here. Ye shrugged and continued, as you can guess, I started believing that he isn't someone who can be embarrassed by most things, risque or otherwise. She looked at me with shining eyes making the archer uncomfortable. Then you came and started blasting him with your smiles. What is that supposed to mean? And slowly, his self-control started slipping the longer you talked to him. Then you dealt the final blow to him. Mei gasped in horror, hands going up to her mouth. Oh no. I didn't injure him too badly, did I? Fu Hua took a deep breath and looked at the sky wondering what was wrong with the archer. It was like having Kiana around them again doing stupid stunts and getting fawned over by Mei. Fu Hua dearly hoped and prayed that Issei Haidu did not turn into a Kiana. She doesn't want to deal with that headache anytime soon, if ever. No, you didn't, Mei. Even if you did, the hot springs will be able to heal him. Besides, he can heal himself. Fu Hua tiredly answered by rubbing her temples. Should I go check up on him? Before you could volunteer to take Mei to him, Yasaka covered her mouth and let Fu Hua deal with Mei. No. He will be fine. So, you don't have to. Mei stared at Fu Hua for a few seconds before relenting with a sigh. Fine. Then she glared at Ye and slowly pulled her sword out of its scabbard. Now then, why did you assault him that day? It was to test him. Mei narrowed her eyes and crimson lighting started crackling around her in the air, making Ye stammer and raise her hands in surrender. Wait. I was doing it because I wanted to see what he was capable of since Yasaka Nisama said he was special. Yasaka facepalmed as Fu Hua and Mei dully stared at Ye, unbelieving of the words she spoke. Before she could get involved with the mess Ye dug herself into, Yasaka vanished leaving her sister to her fate. How dare you assault a child? Aya. 9:30 p.m., 30th August 2004. Issei's room, Taiyo Castle, Kyoto. Issei Pav. The day was a hectic day. After that embarrassing moment of running away from Mei when I lost my cool and self-control, it was lunchtime. I had taken another bath in the hot springs to recharge before donning a forest green kimono, leaving my hair down instead of tying it up in a ponytail and headed towards the dining room. Immediately upon entering I was frozen when I saw Mei and Fuuka sitting right next to my seat. Mei for whatever ungodly reason had started fretting over me, asking me if I was alright, if I was feeling bad, if I was hurting anywhere and many more that flew over my head as I was getting overwhelmed until Fu Hua came to my rescue. It took me some time to regain my composure, though it took comparatively longer, thanks to Mei sitting right next to me on my left. Her presence kept reminding me of her kind smiles and the embarrassing moment, so I had to focus on how she and Fuuka interacted. Seeing their familiarity with each other was the final piece of information I needed to realize that yes, they are the real deal, they are from Honkai-verse, instead of being natives of the DxD universe. The other piece of information was how they fought. Fu Hua fought just like she did in the game. Moderately fast, dealing heavy and powerful punches and kicks. Mei's crimson lightning, her speed and attack patterns, confirmed that she was indeed who I thought she was. With my suspicions confirmed, I wondered, what were they doing in this universe? How did they arrive here? Did the Honkaiverse get destroyed by the last Hercher again, even though she was supposed to be dead, and they were the lucky two who managed to escape? Or was there something else that I'm missing? Will this universe be invaded by any of the archers or Honkai beasts? Should I be worried about any Honkai eruptions? I had pushed aside these thoughts of mine when Ye told me my Kyudo instructor would be showing up next before she would take me to the blacksmith for my forging lessons. When I asked about my Dijutsu or art of the spear instructor, I was told that Kunu's personal bodyguard would be taking care of those lessons. I had no qualms about it as using a spear in combat has very low chances of happening, even if I were to fight Cao Cao. Of the many things I had asked for from Amaterasu, teachers for Senjutsu, Yujutsu, Kendo, Iaido, Kyudo, Dijutsu, hand-to-hand combat and forging, swords, spears, axes, hammers etc. were them aside from books on magic, Senjutsu, Yujutsu, curses, concepts, rituals and potions. I want to create my own magic spells to incorporate into my swords, which is why I need to research and understand what magic, curses, concepts, Senjutsu and Yujutsu truly are. Why do I want to learn how to forge swords, spear, axes and other melee-bladed weapons, despite being capable of spawning them? I believe that a sword forged by one's own hand is far stronger than a sword created out of thin air using magic. Of course I won't be forging every single sword with my hands, I will learn the entire process, forge a few swords to get a good grasp over said process, and then use blade blacksmith to create swords, albeit I will be going through the steps of forging a sword in my mind when I create them. The results will be swords which will be far stronger and better in quality than anything Udo, Jin, the original Jin and the previous users have made. Hopefully. While I do want to pull a Shiru Amiya, I wouldn't resort to making mere copies. No, my creations will be purely original in this world. But there's another reason for requesting so many things. I want to pull a Sengo Muramasa from FGO, or more specifically, forge a Tsumigari Muramasa of my own. A sword that can purge resentment, cut through bonds, fate, causality, and destiny, and slice through the idea of karma itself. But I would take it 2 steps further. I would also throw in Yamato from Devil May Cry due to its ability to cut through anything, except for the aforementioned ones that Tsumigari Muramasa can cut through even the very fabric of space itself. And the final step is to pump it full of my divinity in the forging process to make it a divine construct that has the firepower of Gilgamesh's E and is capable destroying and killing anything and everything, gods, dragons, devils, angels, fallen angels, monsters and even immortals. The resulting sword born of Tsumigari Muramasa, Yamato, E and the intent of being an all-slaying divine construct will not only become my ideal sword but also my balance breaker. A sword, nay, a divine construct unique only to myself with its sole user being me and one of my truly worthy descendants. In a way, my ideal sword would be no different than Gilgamesh's E, but I don't care. I want to leave my mark in the history of the supernatural world, and what better than forging a sword that can destroy and kill anything and everything. That aside, similarly to Fu Hua and Mei, my Kyudo instructor had wanted to see what I was capable of with a bow, and after a short display of my meager skills with it, he talked with Fu Hua and Mei before leaving. Fortunately enough, the man wasn't anyone I recognized, so that would mean he is a native of the DxD universe affiliated with the Shinto faction. An hour after that he took me to the blacksmith, a tall elderly man with a body that could rival Yamamoto from Bleach. Fortunately, he didn't ask me any questions whatsoever and agreed to teach me how to forge swords, spears, axes, etc. By the time we returned, it was dinner time, and fortunately, Fu Hua and Mei were not there, letting me eat in peace. After that I took another bath in the hot spring before retreating to my room, tired and exhausted. Ye had dropped by my room when I was arranging the futon, blanket and pillow to sleep. She gave me a written schedule of my training plan for the next several years and left. For a singular moment, I was frightened after registering what the schedule was made up of. It was packed to the brim with training, studying, rest and training. It hardly gave me any time to do my research, but from what I can tell, I'll have to sacrifice a few hours of my resting time for it. But, it's not like I can complain. If it ends up helping me achieve my goals sooner, then that's a small sacrifice I'm willing to pay. As it is now, I don't believe in slow and steady wins the race as there's less than 4 years left until canon begins, that is assuming everything goes as it did in canon, so I'll have to prepare as much as I can and hopefully unlock my balance breaker in the form of my ultimate sword before then. Maybe I should conduct the ritual atop the ley lines to make sure my ultimate sword truly does become a divine construct. Whatever. All this thinking is making my head hurt. I'll just sleep for now. The of using the technique and number of years has been reduced from the amount of years he would have lived without using it. Kai on the other hand is referred to as a type of energy similar to mana and demonic power. 9:45 p.m., 27th March 2007. Iseoi's room, Haidu residence, Kuo. Iseoi Pav. 2.5 months. I was gone from Kuo for 2.5 months for my training and school. And when I return for spring vacation, what do I find? Issei is now a devil. The exact thing I did not want happening has happened. The exact thing for which I requested Amaterasu to not allow the devils to take Kuo as their territory. The exact thing that I wish to prevent. I am not a person who is easy to anger. I have a lot of patience and have more than enough self-control to not let my emotions get the better of me. But now I am pissed. I want to let loose and destroy things, kill a bunch of unfortunate stray devils or rogue exorcists. I want to beat someone up to a bloody pulp. Why did it fail? Why? I know most of my plans aren't the best ones and are often created and improvised on spot, but they never failed me. How did the devils find out about Issei? Only Yaokai and those who are adept with Senjutsu are capable of detecting the negligible draconic aura surrounding Issei, not the devils. So how did they find out? What's worse, I don't even know who his king is. I'm not foolish enough to be confident in believing that Rias is his king. For all I know, his king can be someone else. Someone I don't know. If it was Rias, then I would have understood how she found out about him. Sirzich's, that bloody bastard being that he is, could have found out about him by keeping an ear on the ground and arranged several events so that Rias could eventually make him her servant. If Rias is his master then I can relax a bit, assuming she's just like her canon counterpart. But if not, then no, I can't just go and kill her. That would risk Issei turning into a stray devil and being killed. If that's out of the question, then what can I do? Oh. I can just hunt down a stray devil and fish out the evil piece inside of them to find out a way of extracting the evil piece from Issei in a safe and sound manner. Sure, the probability of success is very low, but I can at least try, right? I don't want Issei to end up living a horrible life as a devil. He may be an idiot, a horny and perverted idiot, but he's a good kid, he doesn't deserve the life of a pitiful slave. As his older brother, the least I can do is help him live a good life. But the fact remains that I don't know who his king is. Is it Rias or is it someone else? Sona maybe. No, she isn't the type to recruit him into her peerage, White Dragon Emperor or not. His very personality would lead to Sona tearing apart her hair. Saraerg? Possible, given that his canon counterpart is Regulus Nemia. Sikvera? She's a mecha nerd and a scientist type person and wouldn't approve of Issei's behavior and mannerisms. Idora? No, he's got a boner for nuns and a rape fetish, he wouldn't recruit any male into his peerage. Add one Glaciolabola's kid. No idea, I don't even remember who he is. Should I interrogate him about it? Ask him who his king is? No, it wouldn't be fair to him. He doesn't know that I've been involved with Supernatural for 3 years, so I don't have the right to interrogate him about it. I have my secrets and he has his, forcing him to reveal his would result in me revealing mine. That, and I don't want him to find out about my affiliation yet, at least not until the canon events start. So for now, as much as I hate to do so, I'll keep quiet about it and leave him be. All I can do now is pray and hope that Rias is his king. 9:45 a.m., 28 March 2007. Living room, Haidu residence, Kuo. Issei Pav. Issei Haidu, the soon-to-be 16-year-old teenager with the intelligence of a monkey, has received a scholarship. I dryly ask Mom, unable to believe what I just heard. That's right. I'm so happy that both of my sons are studying in prestigious schools with scholarships now. Mom beamed, not even bothering to scold me for calling Issei a monkey. Said monkey just smugly grinned at me. Ha. Not a monkey anymore. I got a perfect score on my entrance exam. Really now? Why do I find that hard to believe? What kind of school has such low standards to offer you a scholarship? Hey. That school doesn't have low standards. It's just as prestigious as your school. In fact, it's the Akihabara branch of that school. So take that. Well, congrats then. Akihabara branch eh? Why am I not surprised? Of course he will get a scholarship from that school. It is after all where Rias Gremory and Sona Citri attend classes. So this means that either Rias or Sona is his king, which is a relief. Though, there's always the slightest possibility that his king is someone else and Issei is currently under the care of Rias or Sona. Can't ignore the possibility. At least try to sound happy. Why my brother got into a prestigious high school. I'm so happy. Why? Issei winced hearing my sarcastic tone and raised a hand to stop me. On second thought, don't. Just don't. I snorted and relaxed on the couch. Did your fellow monkeys Mitsuda and Motohama get scholars as well or was it only you? Why would they get scholars? Issei asked with a raised eyebrow. They didn't do as good as I did in the entrance exams. Oh my dead god, he actually studied enough to outshine them. Good. The less influence they have on you, the better. Hopefully you'll make better friends in that school. Not like it would stop him from hanging out with them when he returns to Kuo during vacations. Issei waved his hand. I already have friends there. They are the reason I even applied to that school to begin with. Oh? Do tell about these friends of yours. 4:15 p.m., 28 March 2007. Close to Haidu residence, Kuo. Third-person POV. Ria's Gremory hummed a pleasant tune with a smile on her face as she took her time walking towards her newest family member's home, wearing a blue blouse shirt and jeans with heels for footwear. Accompanying her was her adorable rook Kaneko Taoju, wearing a frilly white shirt and blue skirt with shoes for footwear. With one hand she was holding on to a shopping bag filled to the brim with candies and snacks of all kinds, and with the other hand she was licking a lollipop. Originally, only Rias had planned on dropping by at her soul pawn's home to ask his parents' permission to take him to the camp she and Sona had planned to have their respective peerages bond over. But then Kaneko ran out of snacks and decided to accompany her so that she could buy them on the way back. Rias didn't have any problem with that, she loved spoiling her family. But once she came close to her pawn's home, both she and Kaneko paused in their tracks, alert and worried. "Do you feel that, Kaneko?" said girl nodded and sent her bag back to their shared home in Akihabara with a magic circle. Large presence, strong sacred gear and large mana. What she said wasn't wrong. It was like an invisible weight was weighing down on their shoulders trying to push them down to their knees in submission. Both cautiously started closing in on her pawn's home and after exchanging a nod, Rias rang the doorbell. Humming. Kaneko stated sensing the unknown presence walk towards the door from the living room. Both Rias and Kaneko tensed ready to spring into action when they heard a soft click before the door swung open and were taken aback by the person greeting them at the door. He was rather attractive, especially by human standards. He had an effeminate face, with golden eyes and a kind smile. His skin and hair were pale, with the former being considered attractive among devil nobility and the latter trailing freely down his back. His tall, slender form was dressed in a red kimono, decorated with leaves of green, gold and orange, and tied together with a red obi. "Yes. How can I help you two beautiful ladies this fine afternoon?" His voice was soft. Soothing, even. Rias, taken slightly aback, took a moment to collect herself and cleared her. "I am Rias Gremory. This is Kaneko Taoju. We are friends of Issei-kun. Is he home?" The man raised an eyebrow and tilted his head. You say Issei's friends. Well, why don't you come in then? He's out on an errand now, but I am sure he would be back soon." He opened the door wide and stepped to the side, gesturing to them to enter the house. "Pardon the intrusion." Rias entered the house and slipped off her heels, Kaneko following her lead. Both noted that the man had yet to introduce himself and tensed as he gracefully walked past them, a strand of his fluttering hair brushing against Ria's arm. "Please come take a seat. I'll prepare some tea and snacks." "Thank you." Both took a seat on the couch and waited for the man to serve them tea. "My apologies, I have yet to introduce myself," the man said returning after a few minutes with a tray of tea and snacks. Sitting down opposite to them, the man introduced himself with a respectful bow. "I am Issei Haidu, the younger brother of your friend Issei." Both devils were mildly surprised. This man looked older than Issei. Issei chuckled. "I can understand why you are so surprised. I don't look anything like my parents nor my brother, so it's natural for you to be disbelieving of my claim. I happen to have inherited the genes of both my paternal and maternal grandmothers, hence why I look so different." Oh, I see. If you still don't believe me, you can always ask mom when she wakes up from her afternoon nap." Rias waved her arms and replied, "No need. Miki-sen had once told us about you, so it's okay. It's just that you're a bit different than what I expected you to be." Issei smiled in amusement. Yes. I did hit a sudden growth spurt recently, even my family was surprised." He didn't bother mentioning the hour-long senjutsu sessions Yasaka and Mei had put him through to enhance his inherent beauty. "That aside, what do you think of my brother so far?" "Oh, and to be honest, no need to mince your words. I know exactly how my brother is, and I won't be mad if you say a few bad things about him." "He's a pervert," Kaneko bitterly answered. "Loud and annoying. Don't like him much." Issei laughed. "I am well aware of that. Kaneko Taoju." Kaneko nodded. "Issei may be a pervert, but he isn't unlikable, is he?" Kaneko silently contemplated for a few moments before shaking her head. "No. Doesn't mean I like him though." Issei kindly smiled at her and Kaneko's cheeks reddened. "Don't worry, you will get used to him in due time. You don't have to like him, just tolerate him, okay?" Seeing the girl meekly nod, Issei shifted his attention to Rias. "What about you, Gremory-san?" "Issei-kun is fun to be around. He is a really kind and sweet boy. He can be a bit perverted at times, but I'm not bothered by it. I honestly find him cute." Issei's smile widened. "I'm really glad that you feel that way. Honestly, I never liked his previous friends, they were a bad influence on him. I hope you will positively influence him into becoming a better person." He finished with a bow. Rias and Kaneko exchanged glances. "Don't worry, Issei-kun. You have my word that we all will help Issei-kun become a better person." The three of them elected to ignore the fact that they just treated Issei like a mental patient. Thank you. You're welcome. It was that moment that the front door opened and Issei's voice drifted in. Mom. Issei. I'm back. Welcome back Issei, and quiet down a bit will you? Mom is taking an afternoon nap. Oh, sorry. Wait, we have guests. Issei trotted into the living room and blinked several times in surprise. Ria-san. Kaneko-chan. When did you arrive? Good afternoon Ice-kun. We arrived about 20 minutes ago. Your brother has been entertaining us while we wait for your return. Issei chuckled. Oh, hardly Gremory-san. If anything, it was you two who entertained me. You did indulge me in answering a couple of questions I had, did you not? That is true. Before Issei could ask what was going on, Issei spoke up. Issei, why don't you keep Gremory-san and Taoju-san company while I take care of the groceries? Yes sure. Issei stood up and took the grocery bag from Issei and headed towards the kitchen, Ria's and Kaneko's eyes following his every graceful movement. So, what brings you here today Ria-san? Not like I'm not glad to see you or anything. Ria's blinked twice before remembering the actual reason for her sudden trip to Issei's home. Right, I and another friend of mine are arranging a camp to allow our peerages to know each other. It's been 2 months since you became a part of my peerage, and my friend has also gotten another member for her. So we decided to camp out at a local campground to let our peerages mingle with each other. I want you to be there as well, so we came here today to ask for your parents' permission. Ria's explained in a low voice so that Issei didn't hear what they were talking about. Oh. A camp? Yeah sure, count me in. Mom and Dad won't have any issues with it. Though? Issei sheepishly smiled and scratched his head. They might want me to take Issei as well, hahaha. Oh. Yeah Issei doesn't have any friends, like, not even one. Whenever he returns back home from Kyoto during vacations, he either walks around the town by himself, work out, visit the dojos he used to go to, paint something, help mom out with household work, try out new recipes or do homework from school. He may not look like it, but he's pretty lonely sometimes, and as his brother I don't like it at all. Rias and Kaneko both frowned, not liking what they heard about Issei, though they couldn't understand why he didn't have any friends. Issei is quite an attractive individual. His skin tone and hair in particular are quite eye-catching just like her family's signature crimson hair. And from what she recalls from the time Mickey gushed about Issei, he also is an honor student, never scoring less than 99% in everything. Combine his attractive features, the air of nobility, and academic achievements, you get someone who would have a multitude of friends, fake or otherwise. Unless he wasn't a people person. Oh my, Rias-chan, Kaneko-chan. When did you arrive? Mickey asked in pleasant surprise as she entered the living room, Issei right behind her. Mickey-san. It's been a while. How have you been? Rias asked, pushing aside her momentary concern for her pawn's younger brother, and hugged Mickey. Oh, I've been absolutely great. Mickey sat down beside Issei after hugging Kaneko. Now both of my sons are attending prestigious high schools with scholarships. I'm practically over the moon. Issei-kun is a high school student as well. Isn't he 2 years younger than Ice-kun? I skipped a grade in both elementary school and middle school, so I'll be starting high school the upcoming month. Issei answered sitting down on the love seat. You're attending Akihabara Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing Academy too, right? That is correct. What about you, Issei-kun? I've been attending its Kyoto branch since middle school. I see. Are you living with a relative there at dorms? With a host family actually. Middle school students live with a host family and then move to dorms in high school in the Kyoto branch. Rias nodded in understanding, not letting her suspicions about Issei reflect on her face and demeanor. Rias had her suspicions about Issei once she recovered from her trance and figured out that he was the source of that strong and heavy presence, but now that she knows where he lives for most of the year. She has a feeling Issei is either aware of the supernatural or has been affected by the ambient mana and kai in the air of Kyoto. Having reached her conclusion, she decided on what to do next. Mickey-san, I actually came here for more than a social visit. I have figured as much. I and a friend of mine have planned on camping out at a local campground for 4 days and 3 nights. At first I came here to invite only Ice-kun, but now that Haidu-kun is here as well, I wish to extend the invitation to him as well. All I need is your permission. Are you sure about Gremory-san? Issei asked in a manner that actually made Rias question what she just said. You just met me today, and while Issei may be acquainted with your other friends, I am not. I don't think they would appreciate me suddenly showing up out of nowhere, even if Issei is my brother. Rias took a breath regaining her composure and smiled in a way that would have stunned Issei if he hadn't gotten used to Mei, Fuhua, Ye, Yasaka and Amaterasu. Don't worry Issei-kun. They wouldn't mind you joining at all. If anything, you will receive a warm welcome from them. If you're so sure about it, then I have no problems with it as long as mom and dad perm. I'm okay with it. Mickey cut Issei off, smiling gratefully at Rias. I'm sure Goro will be okay with it as well. Goro may not be home now to say this, but trust me, you inviting both of our sons mean a lot to us. So thank you. Issei released a breath he didn't know he was holding in, glad that Issei would be joining him for the trip, momentarily forgetting that his brother was just a normal human. Issei just smiled and shook his head, relaxing on the love seat. Kaneko had a small smile on her face that she hid using her cup with a pretense of drinking tea. She had an inkling of what her king was planning, and she wasn't against it. Sure, she was scared when she first sensed Issei's large and overwhelming presence from afar, but once she came face to face with him, his presence wasn't overwhelming anymore. Rather, it had become warm and cozy like the sun. As a cat, she wanted to bask in his sunny presence, wishing more of it. She really hoped that Issei would accept Ria's offer of a position in her peerage, that way she would always get to bask in his presence and be lazy. Ria's cheered in her head, happy that she had a potential knight or rook in her hands. No need to thank me, Miki-san. I just want to have fun with my friends, and I want Issei-kun to be there as well. Kaneko and he are of the same age, so I'm sure they will get along well. That's wonderful. 7:35 p.m., 28 March 2007. Dining room, Haidu residence, Kuo. Issei Pav. Really? That's so kind of Rias-chan to invite both of you to the camping trip. Make sure to pass my gratitude to her, okay? Dad said once we relayed the news of the trip to him. Mom has already done that, but sure, I'll do it. Rias and Kaneko had stayed for about 15 minutes to explain the entire plan of the camp to mom. After that, she and Kaneko both added my number to their contact list and left, promising to pick me and Issei up on the day of the trip. Then I helped mom with dinner, and by the time we were done, dad came home and took a bath before sitting down on the dining table with us for dinner. Ice, make sure to invite Rias-chan and her friends for dinner at our home, okay? It's the least we can do for being such good friends with you, and from today on, Issei. Alright mom. So, how and when did you meet them, Issei? I was desperately curious to know how things came to be what they are today. Oh, that. Issei scratched his chin, thinking for a moment how to tell me without giving away his connection to supernatural. Probably. I met them some time after you left at the end of the winter vacation. Ria-san had come to Kuo with her brother who was on a business trip. That bloody piece of shit, if only I was strong enough to skin him alive. As you can guess, it was her first time here in this town and she got lost. I came across her after school, and being the kind Samaritan that I am, I helped her return to the hotel she was staying at with her brother. After that day we crossed paths with each other a couple of times and eventually became friends. She then introduced me to her other friends, and this led to that. After hearing that they were attending the Akihabara branch of your school, I decided to apply for the high school section and studied hard. Issei smugly smirked at me and shrugged his shoulders. And now I got in with not only a perfect score, but also with a 100% scholarship. Well, at least you finally did something to make us all proud of you. Issei blinked twice and with an incredulous tone asked, wait, you're proud of me? I chuckled and answered, how can I not? My useless, perverted and horny monkey of a brother has finally taken a step towards being a productive human being in this society. That's as rare as winning the first prize in the lottery. Issei winced. Well, when you put it like that, never mind. At least you'll stop calling me a monkey, right? I just smirked at him and sat quietly. You'll stop calling me a monkey, right? Instead of answering him, I stood up and returned to my room, waving at him over my shoulder. 8:25 p.m., 28 March 2007. Issei's room, Haidu residence, Kuo. Issei Pav. Once I closed the door to my room, I covered the windows with the curtains, slapped on a sound-cancelling and illusion barrier, and proceeded to laugh like crazy. I mean, how can I not? When I sensed two devil energy signatures popping up at the outskirts of Kuo, I hastily drew up a plan to manipulate them, so to speak. So what I did is, loosen up my control on my mana reserves to leak the amount of mana I used to leak before I got a handle on it and increased it. Then I let my Kai hover in the air in a 50-meter radius of my home, making sure to hide the divinity in it. For the final step, I let the magical signature of Blade Blacksmith mix in with my Kai bar, the holy effect. All these steps resulted in a high-potential peerage member for a devil looking for servants, and seeing as one of the energy signatures seemed to slightly match that of Surzich's, yes, I have met him, but that's a story for another day. I concluded that it can only be Ria's, since she is one of the new friends Issei had made. Knowing her situation, she'll need every advantage that she can find to break out of the marriage, so she will be attracted to me like a moth to fire, just like Serafo and Yasaka 3 years ago did. Of course, assuming my plan to lure her into my trap succeeds, she is likely to offer me a position in her peerage either by the time I have to return to Kyoto or when I return for summer vacation. Unfortunately for her, I intend to turn her down, choosing to remain an ordinary human instead. Honestly, half of me feels bad for taking advantage of her like this, but for Issei's sake, I need to make sure she is a good master to him. Regardless of whether she is a good master or not, I will still find a way to extract the evil piece out of Issei in a safe and sound manner. Physically, he may be my older brother, but spiritually, he is my younger brother. While my plan did succeed, it seems to have succeeded too much seeing as even I got invited to this camping trip of theirs. I may not have shown it, but I was actually surprised that she casually invited me without talking about me with her other friend, who is most likely to be Sona. I doubt Sona would be pleased with a normal human tagging along, but if the glint in Ria's eyes is anything to go by, then Sona wouldn't be against me joining the trip if Ria's intends on having me join her peerage. That aside, one thing bothered me only for a bit. That is, why was Kaneko with Ria's instead of Akeno? I know that Akeno is in Ria's peerage as Issei had mentioned her as well, so why Kaneko instead of Akeno? Could it be that Kaneko is instead Ria's queen? In my opinion, Kaneko makes a fine candidate for the queen piece. Her innate nature as a Nekashu would definitely benefit from the perks of the queen piece, and vice versa. But until she stops fearing her heritage, she will only be a burden to Ria's just like Akeno will be until she gets over her trauma and daddy issues. But if I remember right, Akeno needed a mutation piece to be reincarnated into Ria's peerage, so a Rooker Bishop piece, mutated or not, wouldn't be enough to turn her. Her dual nature as a hybrid of a former human and fallen angel would need a powerful piece to allow the devil transformation to happen. Maybe Kaneko tagged in as Ria's bodyguard. Seems plausible enough. Oh well, at least she seemed to be welcoming of me if that tiny smile on her face that she cutely tried to hide after mom approved of me joining them is anything to go by. Good thing I adjusted my kai on the spot, pulling on Amaterasu's blessing to be warm and cozy for her inner cat, huh? Damn it, I feel like a piece of shit for manipulating them like this, I sighed covering my eyes with an arm as I continued to rest on my bed after my laughing fit. After several moments of silence, a thought popped up in my head that definitely made me go blue in the face. With how much I am obsessed with giving Issei a safe life. I sound like it, don't I? Hologram Sona said before hanging up. HMPH. As if I will. Who does she think she is? 12:45 p.m., 30th March 2007. Deeper past Shiratoko National Park, Hokkaido. Issei Pav. Stepping out of the minivan parked beside a cottage with my travel bag in hand, I took in the sight of the place we were at. It was a large campground inside a forest with two tennis courts side by side several decameters away from the cottage on its right. To my right, which is the face of the cottage, I can see Mount Iazan is close by from my position, Kamuaka River leading to it. Normally, this entire place is supposed to be closed off due to heavy snow until June, but seeing as there is not even a speck of snow here alongside a slightly warmer weather, the answer can only be the large barrier that I sense surrounding this entire place. That aside, within the cottage I can sense 5 energy signatures belonging to devils, one of which has a noticeably draconic taint, but weaker compared to Issei's negligible draconic taint. It may be a contradictory statement, but it's true. Saji's is noticeable mainly due to him having demonic power, but the draconic taint in his demonic power and Kai is weak, mainly due to his sacred gear, containing only a piece of Rider's soul. In Issei's case, due to his lack of demonic power, it's hard to notice the taint in it and his Kai, but once you do, you are bound to feel the conceptual weight of Albion mixed in it, whose soul was intact. This is why Saji's one is noticeable but weak, and Issei's is negligible but strong. Whoa, I smiled seeing the awe on Issei's face as he surveyed the campground. We'll be here for 4 days. That's right. Riaz answered walking past the two of us, Akeno right behind her. Now follow me, I'm sure Sona is already here with her friends. The front door of the cottage opened and said person stepped out with a stern and stoic face. You're late. Riaz shrugged. We took the scenic route and made a few stops here and there. She placed her hands on her and asked, now will you let us in or keep us standing out here? You don't want to make bad first impressions, do you? Tempting, but no. Come in, we've already taken the rooms on the first floor. The second floor is yours. Sona glanced in my direction and examined me head from toe before turning around and re-entering the cottage. Thanks. Riaz faced us and jerked her head towards the inside of the cottage before entering it. We followed her in and up the stairs to the second floor. Riaz, Akeno and Kaneko took the rooms on the left of the hallway, while Issei, I and Yudo took the ones on the right. Holy shit. The room's huge. I heard Issei comment from the room on my right and couldn't help but smile in amusement. For him, the rooms of this cottage are huge, but not for me. These rooms are slightly smaller than the one I have back in Taiyo Castle after all, but that doesn't mean they are bad. There's a king-size bed, a wardrobe, dressing table, closet, an attached bathroom, a balcony with a great view of Mount Iazan and AC. Dropping my travel bag beside my bed, I walked over to the balcony and leaned against the railing. When I let Amaterasu know of Issei being turned into a devil, she was not pleased at the slightest. She was furious even. Surziches, that bloody piece of shit, made her break her word to me about protecting my family from the supernatural. She had explicitly made it clear that no devil, nor fallen nor angels, should come in contact with the Haidu family as they were under her protection, otherwise there will be consequences. But it seems like both Serafal and Surziches didn't bother acknowledging such a thing, seeing as neither Sona nor Riaz seemed to know about that tidbit. Otherwise Riaz wouldn't have turned Issei into a devil and by extension, wouldn't have planned on making me a part of her peerage as well. Riaz is stupid, but she's not suicidal. If she had known that Issei was off limits under the protection of the chief goddess of a faction, she wouldn't have made him her servant. And even if she had planned on it, Sona would have stopped her. At least I think she would. After I let Amaterasu know that I will be going on a camping trip invited by Riaz and that she possibly plans on recruiting me into her peerage, the goddess was most probably ready to kill Riaz and Surziches if the abrupt increase in temperature around the entire world was anything to go by. And if I hadn't calmed her down, she might have ended up doing it. Once she calmed down, she told me to observe the two peerages, see how their kings interact and treat them, and let her know what I think, since depending on my thoughts, the punishment for making her break her word to me would vary in severity. That, and she would be arranging a meeting with Serafal and Surziches soon to talk about the entire matter. Of course, should Riaz offer me a place in her peerage, the answer will be a flat no. Would I feel bad about it? No. Because I'm petty like that. Surziches has destroyed whatever plans I had to keep Issei safe and secure from the supernatural, and for that, I will have my vengeance against him, one that will hopefully break the dipshit. It will be one of the pettiest things I'll do. He. Knock knock. Knowing who it was outside the room, I just composed myself and answered, "Come in." Kaneko slowly opened the door and took one step inside. "Riaz sent me to take you downstairs." Turning around, I flashed a small smile at the diminutive girl. "Lead the way then, Taoju-san." Millimeters. 9 pairs of eyes landed on me the moment I stepped down the stairs behind Kaneko. Riaz was the first one to speak up. "Issei-kun. Right on time. We're starting the introductions now." "I highly doubt that's the case, as all of you had gotten down 5 minutes ago and were already talking before I arrived, but I'll ignore that." "Who's starting?" I asked instead of taking in everyone present. From Sona's peerage it was only her, Tsubaki, Momo, Saji and Rya, I think. Saji might be the new addition, but wasn't he added during the second year a bit before Issei was? Oh well, both of them got added a year early, hopefully nothing bad happened with Issei, cause I'll be mad. "Allow me." Sona took a step forward, pushing up her glasses, the light reflecting off of them. "I am Sauna Shitori, soon to be second-year high school student of Akihabara Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing Academy and the student council president. Nice to meet you." Yep, she's also putting up the act of a normal human. "Tsubaki Shinra, I am the student council vice president and a fellow soon-to-be second-year high school student as well in Akihabara Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing Academy. Nice to meet you." Before anyone else could introduce themselves, I spoke up. "All of you here are from the same school, yes?" They nodded. "Then I believe there's no need to mention its name every time someone introduces themselves, no?" I asked that question to Sona, who nodded reluctantly. Her peerage looked like their jaws were hurting from speaking out the entire name of their school. "Then that's that. Please continue." "Momo Hanakai, soon to be second-year high school student." "Hey there. Name's Ryakusaka. I'm on the same boat as Momo. Nice to meet you." "Saji Genshiro. I'll be starting high school this April." I turned to Ria's side as she went next. "I am Riaz Gremory, second-year high school student and the president of the Occult Research Club. A pleasure to make your acquaintance." There's the difference between Sona and her. Ria's manner of speech carries a tone of optimism, informality, welcoming and friendliness, while Sona's one is neutral, formal, stiff and distant. Fu, good afternoon Haidu-kun. I am Akeno Himejima, a second-year high school student and the vice president of the Occult Research Club. Pleased to meet you." Akeno ended with a flirty wink in my direction and I just smiled in amusement. "Next is Angsty boy. Yudo Kiba. I will also be starting high school this April. Pleased to meet you." He smiled and oh my dead god, he's actually sparkling for real. Tsubaki's cheeks turned a light shade of pink. Simp spotted. Kaneko Taoju, third-year middle school student. Issei went next and unlike the others who were introducing themselves to me, he instead introduced himself to them. "I am Issei Haidu and I'll be starting high school this April too with Kiba. Nice to meet you." I clapped softly, garnering everyone's attention as I said to Issei, for once in your almost 16 years of life, you did a proper introduction without making a fool of yourself. Good job. He wasn't even ogling the girls like a pervert, looks like he's really growing up. Then again he has probably introduced himself already and just repeated himself in front of me. Is that an insult or a compliment? Yes. I answered with a smirk, ignoring Issei's grumbling before facing everyone. Greetings everyone. I am Issei Haidu, this idiot's younger brother by 2 years. I've been attending the Kyoto branch of your school since middle school and will start high school this April. It's a pleasure to meet you. I dipped my head pretending to not see the pointed glare Sona aimed at Rias. Why'd you were the younger brother? Hold on, what did Rias and Issei tell them about me? I just smiled at Saji. Why yes I am. What did you think I was? I thought you're his older sister or some beautiful flat-chested girl. I don't blame him for mistaking me for a female, since I'm basically Nasa vs. Enkidu, but with white hair, gold eyes and milky white skin in both appearance and voice. Though I have to admit, the kid has guts saying that in front of Sona and Kaneko. Either that, or he's a dumbus. The latter most definitely. I wish. Issei cried out, getting a disgusted look from Kaneko. I laughed, not in a mocking manner, but amused, embarrassing Saji. Then you must be pretty disappointed that I'm not a girl, no? Saji raised a finger and opened his mouth to say something, but then paused and dropped his finger, shoulders sagging. I don't know, so he's found a new door yet to be opened, huh? Now that I've taken a good long look at you, don't you and Momo look identical? Ria muttered, pushing Momo beside me. Are you two related by any chance? Maybe lost siblings? I shrugged my shoulders. I do not know if we are related or not, but what I do know is that I've inherited the genes of my grandmother from both sides. Is he even human? I ignored Tsubaki's whisper and walked back to Kaneko's side due to our physical age being the same. But that out of the way, Ria started with a clap, still ignoring Sona's glare. Let's have lunch first, then we'll plan out what to do in these 4 days, okay? Very well. Sona gritted out, obviously miffed with Ria's rash decisions, and spared a glance in my direction that I pretended not to notice. It's obvious that she's suspicious of me since I live in Kyoto, the hotspot of yakai activity in human guise, due to my school. Ria's is either ignoring the possibility of me being affiliated with the yakai faction or just didn't think about it. Sona is obviously not of the same mind, something that she's earned the deducted points from, points which she lost due to her stiffness. Though there's the possibility that Sona knows who I am, considering how much of a chatterbox Arafel is, especially since I met her last year when she and the Surziches came to Barokuo again as devil territory for their sisters. Thank the dead god that Amaterasu did not let them take it as their territory again. But, even if Sona doesn't know who I am, she could just call Serafel after observing me for a bit and ask about me. Then she would find out about me, pass off the information to Rias, and interrogate me. There goes my intentions to remain anonymous. 2 p.m., 30th March 2007. Cottage, Kamiwaka River, Hokkaido. Issei Pav. Our plans over these 4 days are as follows. Rias began as she stood up from her chair. Tennis tournament, which will start in an hour once lots have been drawn and will be held in the same way tournament matches are. Due to there being 11 of us, one of us will skip the first round of the tournament. Sona added, getting nods from us. Rias then picked up where she left off. After dinner, we will decide on a movie to watch. Tomorrow morning we will clamber up the river to the waterfalls on Mount Iazan and return here by lunchtime. Sona jerked a thumb outside and continued, after lunch in the afternoon we'll have a fishing competition in teams of 2, and due to there being 11 of us, one will be doing the competition solo. The team with the highest number of fishes caught will win. Most of the fish caught will be stored for the BBQ for the last night. In the night, there will be small games like chess, shogi, bingo, Twister. Akeno drops that smile, it's going to creep them out. True to Ria's words, Akeno had a lewd smile on her blushing face after Twister was mentioned. Then there will be tic-tac-toe, 8-ball pool, and finally Ria's grinned, looking particularly excited for the last game, while Sona had a frown on her face, clearly disliking it. Poker? Everyone gasped and looked at each other before grinning, clearly excited about gambling. Though, as the sole, unknown, adult here, I feel very concerned for them. All of them are between 14 to 17 years old, and Ria's will be the one to be blamed if they become addicted to gambling of all things. Half of me wants to stop it, but I doubt it will work because Ria's look determined to have us play it. Of course, you don't have to participate in all of them, not all of you like strategic games like chess and shogi. You can also skip out on poker if you want, you won't be forced to play them if you don't want to. Heck, if you want to observe, then feel free to do so, I won't stop you. Or not. Deciding to act like a responsible adult, not that these kids knew Kek, I raised a hand and asked, is it really alright for us to play poker? Isn't it illegal? Not that I'm against it considering my dad in my previous life had gifted me a poker set when I was 15. I'm not gonna lie, I do like gambling, as long as real money isn't involved with it, I'm a gacha addict, what do you expect? The only ones that I ever gambled against were my friends and family in that life, and none of us involved actual money in those games. Moreover, do you even have the C? Sona gave me an appreciative look for the slight opposition I did, not like it would matter as I am interested in playing poker. Riaz just smugly grinned at me. Heh. What the government doesn't know won't hurt them. And yes, I do have the C and I guarantee you, no money will be involved in the game. If you're so sure, I trailed off with a shrug, letting Sona take over. The day after tomorrow will be the exploration of the forest we are surrounded by, which will be done in teams of 2 until lunch. The teams will be different from the ones made tomorrow. Oh, and if you arrive late, then you will have to prepare your own lunch. And then we'll have a BBQ and a campfire to end the night WITH. The activities for the last day will not be disclosed now, they will be disclosed during breakfast on that day. We will set out to return back to our respective homes before sunset. Sona finished with a blink and Yumisa glance at me. Any questions? I raised a hand and Sona nodded. Yes. What about the household chores? I don't see any kind of staff member in here to take care of that. Sona blinked twice, probably not expecting me to bring it up, and gave me a curt approving nod. Those will be divided among us all. Sona looked over at everyone and asked, those who can cook, raise your hand. Saji, Ria, Momo, Tsubaki, Akeno and I raised our hands, mind drawing looks from everyone. I raised an eyebrow and asked with an amused smile, what? Didn't expect me to be capable of cooking? Honestly? No. Well, now you do. In that case, Ria and Momo will prepare breakfast, Tsubaki and Akeno will prepare lunch, Saji and Haidu-kun will prepare dinner. And the rest of us will take care of keeping the house clean. Sona said, getting nods from everyone. But that out of the way, let's draw lots to decide who will be facing who in the tennis tournament. 1 a.m., 1st April 2007. Cottage, Kamiwaka River, Hokkaido. Sona Pav. Sona did not know what to think of Issei Haidu. She had first sensed his rather large presence a few minutes before he had arrived at the cottage. She was alarmed at first, why wouldn't she? A strong unknown person was heading towards her and her peerage, but then she sensed Ria's presence close to him and after a bit of contemplation, relaxed and waited for Riaz and him to arrive. And he arrived. When she had first seen him, she had mistaken him for a young woman due to his hip-length snow-white hair, milky white skin and his slender body. There was a noble air around him and his movements were graceful and almost soundless. She was convinced that he was a young woman, one who had yet to develop her curves until Riaz had asked Kaneko to fetch him. Kaneko, can you go fetch Issei-kun? She knew that some people used the honorific kun for both girls and boys, but Riaz wasn't one to call a young woman with that honorific. So the only reason Riaz would have used that honorific was if Issei was a male instead of a female. Sona had wondered if she was wrong about her assumption about him at that time and had received her answer when he had introduced himself. In all honesty, she believed she wasn't to be blamed for mistaking his gender. He looked like a young woman with his sinfully beautiful effeminate features, hair, skin and slender body. But admiring his aesthetic wasn't important. What was important was that she found him strange and suspicious. He was the younger Haidu and the second 14-year-old among their conjoined group, yet the way he carried himself, the way he behaved, everything handed to him being an adult, one raised by a noble family. In fact, the way he and Issei conversed with each other gave off the impression that it was him who was the older sibling instead. Not only that, he was a walking talking red flag that Riaz was not acknowledging on purpose. Sona wanted to punch and kick Riaz for being so foolish as to decide to recruit someone into her peerage who lived in Kyoto for extended periods of time away from home. The fact that he lived in Kyoto alone should have gotten Riaz on guard around him, yet she wasn't. For Satan's sake, he lived among the yokai. For all they knew, he could be affiliated to them, and Riaz gave him the perfect chance to spy on them. But Sona could be wrong about Issei and was just being paranoid for nothing. It could be that he was just a normal human, albeit one with an abnormally large presence for a human who attends the Kyoto branch of her school with scholarship just like his brother, and nothing more. Right. Oh, who was she kidding? Of course he was not a normal person. Every cell of her body screamed at her that he wasn't. And the longer she observed him throughout the day, the more solid her suspicions started to become. He, a supposedly normal human, won the tennis tournament against devil opponents. Not only that, he pushed them, the devils, to their limits there. It was hard getting points against him, the only way they could get points from him was by subtly using magic, but even then he got used to it and started adding spin to his shots. There was absolutely no way a 14-year-old human could go toe-to-toe with a devil in physical fitness, even if they were to work out daily. Sona had made the mistake of glancing at Ria's and almost lost her cool when the redhead looked like she had won the lottery instead of being suspicious. At least Takeo wasn't as convinced as her king. Sona wanted to call out on him, flat out tell him that he was hiding something from them all and that he was deceiving them by pretending to be a normal human, but she didn't have any solid proof to use against him. Sure, his victory against them could be used against him, but then they would have to reveal that they were devils, which Ria's was likely counting on. And even if she did have more proof that he wasn't a normal human being, should she really call out to him? Catch him red-handed? No. As much as she hated it, she could not do anything. He was brought here by Ria's, therefore he was Ria's responsibility. If he did happen to be a spy, then it would be on Ria's for being foolish and greedy. Sona herself would be dragged into it due to being the more level-headed and smarter one, but most of the fault would be on Ria's shoulder, not hers. Maybe if things go south, then Ria's would finally learn her lesson and grow up. Ria's was and is still a childish, spoiled brat, expecting everything to be handed down to her or for them to go the way she wanted to, so this would be a proper lesson for her to learn and grow from. Now she's hoping Issei was actually a spy. 1 a.m., 1st April 2007. Cottage, Kamiwaka River, Hokkaido. Issei Pav. Looks like Sona has caught on that I'm not exactly what I'm pretending to be. In my defense, I did it on purpose to compare the reactions Ria's and Sona would have to seeing me win the tennis tournament. Needless to say, I'm sorely disappointed in Ria's for her lack of suspiciousness towards me. Why wasn't she questioning how I could go toe-to-toe with a devil? Sure, it was just a tennis tournament, but so what? They even used magic. I had to pretend to get caught off guard and miss points several times before I started intercepting them and adding spin to my shots. Is her desperation to get a strong peerage to get out of her arranged marriage with Riser making her blind, or is she simply that great of an actor to fool me into believing she's not suspicious of me? At least Sona was the silver lining as she cranked up her guard around me and started keeping an eye on me until we separated at the stairs with a polite good night after watching the movie. It's obvious that Ria's has yet to grow out of her naivety, assuming she's not putting up an act if her I won the lottery. Face was anything to go by when I won the tournament. At least Takeo wasn't like her. The hybrid was doubtful of me, but not like Sona. By the end of the trip, if Sona doesn't try to expose me, then she likely will for Ria's sake. That's good, because it means that Issei is in good hands with Takeo around. For her peerage's sake, I hope Ria's will grow out of her mentality of collecting shiny peerage members. If not, she will get into trouble with the wrong group and endanger everyone. This just further proves that I need to find a way to extract the evil piece out of Issei in a safe manner without endangering him. Speaking of Issei, it seems he took my advice speech before I left for Kyoto to heart and is slowly changing himself. Listen Bakan, it's alright to be a pervert, in fact everyone has an inner pervert in them, even I do. But what's not alright is to be open about it. The reason you don't have any friends other than those monkeys is because you keep proclaiming your love for the world. Girls find that repulsive and disgusting, so if you are determined to have a harem or at least not die a virgin, then you need to grow out of this habit of yours, otherwise there's only suffering waiting for you in the future. For mom and dad's sake, stop getting detentions by violating a girl's privacy. Have you ever put yourself in their shoes and wondered what it would be like if a girl were to ogle you? You clearly haven't. I'll be gone for most of the year outside of holidays and vacations until I've completed university, which will take at least a decade. I won't be there to pull you out of trouble, so please, grow up and evolve from a monkey to a human. I'm happy that he's no longer as perverted as he was before I left for Kyoto. Instead of blatantly ogling a girl or staring at her, Issei just sneaks a peek at a girl's or her body from the corner of his eyes. He even avoided mentioning that he liked porn and when he was asked what he liked, so it's a massive improvement. At this rate, starting high school, he might end up actually finding himself a good girlfriend, and I'm honestly hoping it to be a Keno, because knowing how she is, it won't be long until they start being with each other. Maybe if they do become an item I should enhance a Keno's fertility so that I can become an uncle. Sounds like a good idea if you ask me. 10 a.m., 1st April 2007. Kamiwaka River, Hokkaido. Issei Pav. Alright. Let's go, everyone. The onsen awaits us. Ria's exclaimed wearing a red jacket over her blue bikini and a pair of sunglasses over her head. Behind her was a Keno in a black bikini under a purple jacket, a bag hanging off of her left arm. Kaneko was wearing a cute white one-piece swimsuit with cat faces of various colors. Sona was wearing a baby blue frilly bikini under a white jacket. Tsubaki went for a brown one-piece swimsuit with gray stripes on the side, a bag similar to a Keno's hanging off of her arm. Momo wore a gray one-piece swimsuit and Ria wore an aquamarine bikini, each carrying bags of their own. If I was any ordinary man, I wouldn't have been able to take my eyes off of them, each was beautiful in their own rights after all. but compared to Yasaka, Yae, Amaterasu, Mei and Fuhua, they weren't much except for Ria's, Akeno and sons who were close due to their supernatural origins, but then again, I might just be biased. The only one other than me who wasn't affected was Yudo thanks to him growing up beside Ria's and Akeno. But Issei and Saji. They were both beat red in the face, bodies stiffer than an iron rod, and their eyes were flitting around the living room of the cottage, constantly trying not to ogle the girls. We guys were wearing swim trunks and half-sleeve shirts. Issei was wearing a plain red swim trunk matching with Ria's jacket, much to his pleasure, and grey shirt. Yudo was wearing a plain grey trunk and white shirt. Saji opted for a green shirt and blue swim trunks. Yudo and Saji both had a bag in their hands with a towel in them. Aside from holding on to a bag of my own with towels for both me and Issei, I myself am wearing a black swim trunk with white trim lines. My shirt was similarly black in color, but on the back was the print of a white sun with a family of 3 white foxes surrounded by trees looking up at it. Yes, I wore it on purpose as the picture perfectly depicted my affiliation with the Shinto faction, and in extension the Yokai faction. Simply put, I'm taunting Sona and possibly Akeno into taking some kind of action against me. Will it bite me in the ass? Most probably. Do I care? No. It would be fun seeing how Rias and Sona would react to an affiliate of the faction's head who granted them permission to make Akihabara their territory among themselves. With them and their peerages here in Hokkaido, Akihabara is practically free for enemy factions to hide in and wreak havoc. And that is assuming someone from the underworld isn't covering for them. Oh well, not like it matters much. They are here to have fun, and I'm not gonna ruin it for them, even if I'm here to spy on them. Don't forget that we will be returning by lunchtime. Sona sternly added, leaving no room for arguments. All of us nodded or shrugged our shoulders in agreement before following Rias and Sona up the river towards where the waterfall and the onsen were. The trek up the river was filled with chatter among the teens. I didn't bother focusing on what the girls were talking about amongst themselves. What I did is mostly appreciate the nature around me and time to time listen to Yudo, Issei and Saji talking about anime, manga and LNs amongst themselves. Surprisingly enough, Yudo seemed quite familiar to them compared to his canon counterpart and was particularly interested in the slice of life genre. Issei and Saji, as expected, were both interested in harem and action genre and preached to Yudo about how glorious those two genres were, trying and failing to draw the knight towards the harem genre, which the two were more insistent about. After about 15 minutes of walking later, we came upon the waterfall in the onsen, which was quite large. Large enough to fit around 30 people in it with enough space left for them to comfortably stretch their arms. Here we are. Rias cheered, a giddy smile on her face with her arms spread wide. She turned around and faced us. What do you think? I had to do a lot of research on this place to use it for our trip. Sona looked around the place before nodding in approval. It's a good pick. It's wonderful. I spoke up, getting a smile from Rias. As someone who loves nature and its purity, this place is a paradise for me. I took a deep breath and exhaled before continuing. The fresh and crispy air that lacks the urban place's pollution fills me with positive energy. Thank you. Having been training in Senjutsu and Jujutsu more intensely in the last 3 years than the 10 years of my life that I self-trained myself in the former art, I came to appreciate nature a lot, especially since all those sessions were held in the center of a forest behind Taiyu Castle. Rias smiled widely. You're welcome. Fu, let's not waste any more time and get in the onsen, shall we? Akeno said, slipping off her jacket, revealing more of her body, which hid Issei and Saji gulping. Well said, Akeno. Rias followed and took off her jacket, folded it and handed it to Akeno, who put their folded jackets inside the bag she carried. With the sun hidden behind clouds, Rias took off her sunglasses and let Akeno keep it in the bag. Well, you heard them. Sona said before slipping off her jacket and handing it to Tsubaki to put it inside her bag. The two of them then followed Rias and Akeno into the knee-deep onsen, followed by Ria, Momo and Kaneko. What should we do? Saji asked, confused and a bit embarrassed to ask the question once the girls left us behind. I held back the urge to retort, why don't you hang upside down from a tree branch? And instead said, we will join them, of course. They aren't the only ones here to enjoy the onsen, we are too. Hey boys. What are you waiting for? Get over here. As if hearing me, Rias yelled, waving her arms at us. We'll be there in a bit. I yelled back and started taking off my shirt. See what I mean? Issei, fold your shirt and put it in this bag. The red towel is yours. With that I turned around and headed off to the onsen. You yeah, thanks. Are you sure you're the older brother? Paying them no mind, I slipped off the sandals, stepped into the onsen and headed towards the waterfall by walking around the edges, taking note of what the girls were doing. Rias and Akeno were splashing each other, the action doing wonders to them. Sona and Tsubaki were conversing with each other opposite to my side of the onsen, already seated inside. Momo and Ria were doing the same as their king and queen, while Kaneko just floated aimlessly on her back until Ria splashed water on her, pulling her into the game. By the time I reached the waterfall, Issei and the other two boys had joined the girls. I just ignored them and sat down on a boulder with a plain surface, brought my hair to the front, leaned back on my hands, crossed one leg over the other and tilted my head back, letting the water falling from above soak me. Fortunately, the water wasn't scalding hot or close to it like it normally is past summer to my knowledge when the park opened up. It was slightly above lukewarm, so the worst that can happen is my skin taking a pinkish tint if I stay for too long. 10:45 a.m., 1st April 2007. Pamiwaka Waterfall, Hokkaido. Issei Pav. After 10 minutes of soaking, I got off of the boulder and threaded through the water to sit beside Issei. Yudo and Saji were both talking about their sacred gears in hushed whispers while the girls chatted amongst themselves. "You seem bored." I started, making the boy glance at me. "Well, there aren't anything to do other than soaking in the onsen." "What were you expecting? This place is for soaking, not ogling girls." Issei remained quiet for several seconds, looking down at the water. Before I could ask if there was anything that upset him, he spoke up. "Say, Issei. Why are you so strong?" He looked me in the eyes, confused. "Ever since we were kids, you have always been stronger than me. Not only that, you absolutely excelled at everything. I want to know why. Why are you so good at everything and I am not? What do I lack that you don't?" I stared down at him for a few seconds before asking him, "Tell me, Issei. What is it that you want to do in life? How is that No, better yet, answer me this. Where do you see yourself in the future? What do you see yourself as in the future?" Issei stayed silent for a few moments before looking down at the water. "I don't know." "Where did his drive to become the harem king go? Has he already given up?" "That doesn't sound good, and I'm not talking about the part about harem king, but the giving up thing, mind you. It might prove to be detrimental for him in the future if he gives up simply because the task is impossible or close to it. No matter. It's better if he stops pursuing that foolish dream, even if his involvement with the supernatural may make that dream a reality." "You want to know where and what I see myself as in the future?" Issei nodded and I pretended to not notice how everyone paused what they were doing and listened to me. "There are many places I see myself at. One is at a business corporation, as the head of a famous company. Another is at a research institute as the head researcher. Then as an engineer, a famous sportsperson, a model, a doctor, a teacher and many more." I listed off the professions I could have pursued if I was just an ordinary human, unaware of the dangers of the supernatural around me. "In other words, you have a goal, or many to strive for. Which, I don't." "Exactly. It's because I have so many goals that I work so hard to be the very best at what I do. That way, I will have a lot of options to choose from to decide on what career to pursue. It's not about talent or being a prodigy. It's about ambition and the hard work necessary to achieve it. Without ambition or a goal, you won't go anywhere." "But that doesn't sound so fun." I nodded. "True. But I can have all the fun I want to have once I've become a successful person in the future. Whether that's by becoming a famous businessman, celebrity, engineer or whatever it is that I become, doesn't matter. Now is the time to start building a solid base for my future, so I'm doing whatever I can with my very best to do that." I gave him a soft smile and added, "Besides, it's not like you can't have fun while doing everything you can for your ambitions. I just chose not to due to my perfectionist mentality. You don't have to be perfect, just do your absolute best." "I see. That is quite an admirable trait you have for someone your age, Haidu-kun. It's not every day you see someone as young as you be so dedicated to building a good future for themselves instead of fooling around." Sona ended with a sharp glance at Riaz, who gave her a look saying like you're one to talk. "Though, I won't deny that I'm curious about the tidbit Haidu-san mentioned about your strength." "As in why I'm so strong?" Sona nodded as everyone perked up and paid rapt attention to me. "That's how I've always been." I glanced down at Issei, ignoring the suspicious look Sona gave me. "Do you remember what I did that one time when those two monkeys that you consider your friends tried to ransack my room for things I didn't have?" Issei winced. "Yeah, you threw them out of your window using one hand for each." I clicked my tongue in annoyance. It's a pity they didn't snap their snacks after landing and die. I examined my nails, ignoring the awkward silence that descended upon the onsen. That way, this world would have become a bit cleaner than it is. Yeah, I guess. After several seconds of awkward silence and glances later, Ria spoke up asking me a question. "I've been meaning to ask this Issei-kun. Why do you have long hair? I thought boys don't like long hair. Not that it looks bad on you or anything, but isn't it a trouble maintaining it? I would know, I do have long hair. Though yours is longer." I ran a hand through the tresses of my hair and answered, "Yes, it's trouble maintaining it." "No, it's not. I let Yujutsu and magic take care of it." But, I've been told by many that long hair suits me better than short hair. They said it brought out my innate beauty. That and the only daughter of my host family loves doing my hair and I do hers in return. I brushed a finger over my eyelash and added, the long eyelashes are also for the same reason. They aren't wrong. Longer hair and eyelashes do seem to suit you better. You are more pretty than handsome, I'd say. I know. I've already come to terms with it. Sona cleared her and said, I believe we've soaked long enough in the onsen. It's best if we return lest our skin prunes and we catch a cold. As if that would happen to you devils. I looked at my fingers and saw the faintest signs of pruning. Shitori-san is correct. We boys will go on ahead to give you privacy. I said, standing up and nudging Issei with my feet to stand up. Thank you, Haidu-kun. I gave Sona a two-fingered wave and led the boys towards the trees where our bags were. All of us quickly dried ourselves off, wore our shirts and headed back towards the cottage. Issei carried our shared bag as I half focused on drying my hair, which I could have done with Yujutsu, and half focused on following the trio of the male devils. Are you a swordsman, Haidu-kun? Feeling the question aimed at me, I answered, I am. What gave it away? I asked despite knowing the answer. You carry yourself in a similar manner to how my teacher does. Yudo answered exactly what I expected him to. I see. I didn't bother saying anything more, letting our group fall in silence as we closed in on the cottage. Unlike the girls who were quite open with amongst themselves, we guys on the other hand were closed off from each other, preferring to be quiet and observe everything instead. It made me realize how bad we were at socializing. But does it matter to me? I observed the three shorter boys in front of me and came to the conclusion that no, it does not matter to me. Saji, Yudo and Issei were all problems for their kings to solve, not mine. As much as it hurts to say this, with Issei being a devil now, he is no longer my concern. Whatever happens to him will happen, he is Ria's responsibility now, she will be the one to take care of him, not me. He stopped being my responsibility since I moved to Kyoto. Before then, mom and dad had basically given me the duty to keep Issei in line, which was lifted off without words once it was decided that I will be moving to Kyoto. It just took me this long, until Ria's made him her servant, to realize that I no longer have to babysit Issei, that he's no longer a kid who needs to hold my hand, even if I'm the younger sibling. Our roles have always been the opposite, that he's growing up, and with this realization, my shoulders now feel lighter, yet it doesn't make me happy. But then again, that's how life is. You don't always get what you want. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the Hikori Takeo for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.